Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Unify the ninja world. Start with Awakening Mangekyo. Chapter 1. This memory. Hiss. Uchiha Zan woke up from his sleep in a daze, rubbing his swollen eyebrows and sorting out the memories that emerged in his mind. I didn't expect that I would travel to the Hokage world. The memories before reincarnation are just like a dream. But where is cheat? Why is there no such ding 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 sound? Uchiha Zan murmured and got up. His petite palm pressed down and he was immediately deeply immersed in the soft and elastic touch. Kid, don't bother me. I couldn't stand it after drinking just a little before, and vomited all over me. The lazy voice sounded in Uchiha Zan's ears, and the next moment, a lotus-like jade hand came across and rested on his belly. Feeling the soft touch, Uchiha Zan looked at Tsunade who was sleeping beside him. The delicate white skin and her scattered light yellow long hair set off a beautiful scene, and the youthful and charming face was full of collagen. The light blue pajamas were open, but still outlined her plump and charming curves. That breathtaking whiteness was like a shot of adrenaline, which sobered Uchiha Zan up. After taking a breath of the alcohol on his body, Uchiha Zan also completely recalled his experience last night. He had traveled to this world for 10 years, and he was just 10 years old this year. He was a member of the Uchiha clan. As for why he could get along with Tsunade, it was due to his average talent and the fact that both his parents had died. The Uchiha clan treated their members very well, and after taking care of him, they gave him a lot of resources. Unfortunately, after he was 5 or 6 years old and could live on his own, the Uchiha clan didn't care about him much. His training talent was also average, and Uchiha Makoto, who was the same age as him and a childhood sweetheart, had the strength of a genin. Everyone was about to graduate from the ninja school, and he was not yet at the genin level. Although most civilian students are like this, he is more likely to be looked down upon as a member of the Uchiha clan. Therefore, before awakening his past life memories, his mentality was very depressed, and he would come to the casino to play from time to time. After a few visits, he actually got in touch with Tsunade. As the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama, she did not have the same hostile thoughts towards the Uchiha clan as most people in Konaha. She played with me for a while, and after the relationship became better and better, she even dragged me to the tavern to drink. Last night, I forced myself to drink several glasses, which led to today's situation. Using the giant god peak to suppress me and force me to drink. I am only 10 years old now. Wow. This woman, does she treat me as a child? Recalling the painful but erotic memories of last night, Uchiha Zan didn't know whether to be angry or happy. He staggered to his feet and pinched a few times to retaliate. It's a pity that I am powerless now, otherwise I must retaliate from another place. Shy kid, this hurts, hoo-hoo. Tsunade muttered a few times in pain, but still didn't wake up. Uchiha Zan, a 10-year-old child, was about the same age as his brother. Tsunade, who was half asleep and half awake, didn't care too much about being touched by Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Zan went to the bathroom to wash his face and looked at himself in the mirror. His young and handsome face was his most outstanding feature. But at this moment, Uchiha Zan didn't care about his appearance, but stared at the eyes in the mirror. The dark eyes instantly turned blood red, and the magatama appeared in the pupils. Single magatama, double magatama, triple magatama. When all 3 magatama appeared in his eyes, the 3 tomo suddenly changed. The magatama connected with each other, outlining the pattern of an 8-pointed star in his pupils. Mangekyo. I directly awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Zan speculated that it might be his own memory awakening, which caused the hidden soul power to increase suddenly and thus open. The joy of opening the Mangekyo Sharingan soon subsided as time passed. Recalling the super shadows, 6 paths, and Otsutsuki clan that would appear in the future ninja world, Uchiha Zan's expression became a little bitter. Even the Mangekyo Sharingan could not be compared with those guys. Even facing the upcoming Second Shinobi World War and the future Third Shinobi World War, Uchiha Zan was not sure whether he could survive by relying on Mangekyo alone. Besides, he didn't have any brothers or sisters, so how to open the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was also a big problem. Before opening the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, this Mangekyo Sharingan was a heavy burden on the user's physical functions and vision. The cursed eyes can only be used as a trump card as much as possible. At least now with this pair of Mangekyo alone, I have the ability to kill even if I am cage level. Muttering to himself, Uchiha Zan began to understand what his Mangekyo's eye technique was. The Mangekyo Sharingan reflected his soul, and the eye technique was derived from his most desired emotions. His own Mangekyo's eye technique was not the eye technique of Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, in his memory, but a brand new exclusive eye technique. The ability of the left eye reincarnation portrait has two forms. One is to construct it with one's own subjective ideas. If the conditions are met, it will consume the pupil power and chakra to successfully materialize the ability or move you want. The second is unknown construction, which consumes pupil power to deduce based on a ninjutsu or ability or move. As for what will be materialized, even he himself cannot know. The ability of the right eye reincarnation sacrifice is to feed back to oneself by absorbing other valuable existences. Uchiha Zan frowned and thought. After naming his pupil technique, he wanted to try it. There is no material for the right eye's reincarnation at present, so he will experiment with the left eye first. My chakra properties are thunder, wind, and fire, which are rare in the Uchiha clan. The first thought that came to his mind was to use the pupil technique to construct Chidori, or Rasengan. But when he thought of these two unprinted ninjutsu, he already had the skills to learn them, and it would be a waste to consume pupil power to deduce. Uchiha Zan immediately changed his mind. He wanted to try whether his left eye could portray bloodline limit. And with his current chakra nature, the most suitable bloodline limit to portray is magnet style. Portrait magnet style nature transformation produced by the fusion of chakra of thunder and wind nature. Following Uchiha Zan's will, the 8-pointed star in his left eye spun rapidly. While the pupil power was consumed, the chakra in his body immediately started to operate on its own. A line of blood and tears slid from the corner of Uchiha Zan's eyes. After dozens of seconds, the 8-pointed star in his eyes returned to a calm and motionless state. Magnet-style magnetic suction. Uchiha Zan did not make a seal, but just raised his hand and made the iron objects scattered throughout the hotel fly towards him instantly. When they were less than half a meter away from him, they suddenly stopped in midair. Looking at these iron knives, needles, and other objects, Uchiha Zan pointed to the wooden door. Bang bang bang. These objects flew out immediately and nailed hard on the back of the wooden door. If it's a sneak attack, this amount of damage is enough to easily kill Genin. The only problem is my current chakra amount, which is not enough to use magnet style more than 3 times. Looking at the scene of the wooden door being pierced by iron, Uchiha Zan couldn't help but smile, and the joy in his heart jumped out on the paper. Just so easily obtained the bloodline limit, the ability of his left eye is extraordinary. And the slightly blurred vision and the heavy fatigue of the body made him calm down quickly. Due to insufficient chakra, the magnet style created by reincarnation and representation just now consumed all the pupil power, and the chakra amount must be increased as soon as possible. Uchiha Zan, who set the current policy, slowly walked back to the bedroom. Looking at Tsunade, who was still sleeping soundly, he fell asleep in her soft and broad chest. He opened and closed his eyes, and when he woke up again, he was woken up by Tsunade rubbing his face. Finally woke up. Seeing Uchiha Zan wake up, Tsunade couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Her expression was quite guilty. Yesterday, she dragged Uchiha Zan to drink on a whim, and almost forgot that he was a 10-year-old child. As she said that, she also pulled over a small table with a sumptuous lunch on it, which looked like it would cost a lot of money. Uchiha Zan, who woke up, glanced at the half-eaten lunch and looked at Tsunade unhappily. Tsunade, you're not going to ask me to pay for the hotel and meals, are you? I'm not stingy to that extent, am I that kind of person? Hearing that Uchiha Zan mentioned this as the first thing he said, Tsunade immediately got angry. Wearing light blue pajamas, she looked Uchiha Zan in the eyes righteously. Uchiha Zan replied without any fear, you seem to have lost all your money yesterday, right? As soon as this sentence came out, Tsunade's momentum dropped again and again. She scratched her head awkwardly and whispered, I will definitely win it back next time. You kid won a lot yesterday, and I celebrated for you. After that, Tsunade immediately pulled closer and said, the shochu here is very good, and I, the big sister, took you on a good trip, so don't mind this little money. Tsunade winked and showed a look of begging for mercy. Uchiha Zan rolled his eyes at her, looking completely speechless. Is it okay for you to treat a 10-year-old child like this? This is not good. One thing is one thing, I can pay, but I have a condition. Uchiha Zan stretched out his finger and gestured a condition. Seeing him so serious, Tsunade raised his eyebrows slightly and looked quite surprised. Why does it feel like this kid has become much more mature all of a sudden, and he is still talking about conditions seriously? Noticing that Uchiha Zan was staring at him, Tsunade subconsciously hugged his chest. The surging peak gently squeezed out of the pajamas, revealing an unfathomable ravine. She was thinking back to what Uchiha Zan did this morning. She was so sleepy at the time that she didn't notice it, but now it's really embarrassing to think about it. You naughty kid, what dirty things are you thinking about? Who did you learn this from? Didn't that guy Jiraiya teach you? Tsunade murmured, looking at Uchiha Zan with a questioning look. Uchiha Zan gave him a look that you thought too much, and said, I want you to teach me medical ninjutsu. This shouldn't be a problem for you, Tsunade. His tone was a bit provocative, which immediately made Tsunade look unhappy. What do you mean it's not a problem? I'm a professional in medical ninjutsu, so of course it's not a problem. You look pretty handsome, but why are you asking for a beating more and more? Tsunade pinched Uchiha Zan's cheeks and replied proudly. But after she agreed, Tsunade also saw Uchiha Zan's little thoughts. She was naturally aware of Uchiha Zan's experience, and she had checked this kind of thing before. Could it be that he felt that he had no talent in fighting and wanted to learn medical ninjutsu from him? Thinking of this, Tsunade couldn't help but feel a little distressed and doting in his heart. If you want to learn medical ninjutsu, I can certainly teach you. As for the accommodation and meal fees this time, please. Touching Uchiha Zan's black hair, Tsunade said gently. Uchiha Zan didn't know that Tsunade thought so much at once, but just felt that her personality was inexplicably changeable. He didn't care too much, and then took out a stack of banknotes. Strictly speaking, all this money was earned by Tsunade for him. Uchiha Zan discovered a long time ago that Tsunade's luck was terrible. He would definitely win if he bet against her. With this, he 500,000 won Ryo yesterday, which was much more than the living expenses given by the clan. Tsunade was immediately happy when he saw the banknotes. Unfortunately, after Uchiha Zan took out a few, he carefully put the rest back into his pocket for safekeeping. Tsunade could only yell in his heart that he must win so much next time. After Uchiha Zan finished lunch, when the two walked side by side from Tansho Street back to the village, Tsunade taught medical ninjutsu. The most basic point of learning medical ninjutsu is the control of chakra. Maintaining a stable and continuous output and making chakra have a healing effect require very precise chakra control skills. When talking about medical ninjutsu, Tsunade's expression became particularly serious. At the end, Tsunade stopped, and there was a forest in front of him. I'll teach you the most basic part of chakra control training, step on the tree. Tsunade pretended to be profound and came to the tree, stepped on the trunk step by step, and stood on the top of the tree more than 10 meters high. After jumping down from the top, Tsunade couldn't hide his smile and gave Uchiha Zan a proud look. Go up and try it. This is usually a training method taught by Jonin who graduated from the ninja school. When he first practiced, he fell down in a mess. Tsunade now wants to see what Uchiha Zan will look like when he falls and cries and comes to find him. Uchiha Zan didn't step on the tree trunk at the first time, but felt the flow of his own chakra first. Since the opening of the Mangekyo Sharingan, the hidden talent of this body seems to have been released. Just by sleeping, the amount of chakra has increased to the level of genin. And the physical fitness is much stronger than before, already comparable to normal adults. If he uses the insight and hypnosis abilities of the Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha Zan is confident that he can fight Chunin or even ordinary Jonin head-on. This was unthinkable before. If he goes back to refine it, Uchiha Zan believes that within a few months, he will have the chakra volume of Chunin or even Jonin. And the benefits of opening the Mangekyo Sharingan are not limited to this. After feeling the changes in himself, Uchiha Zan took the first step. Crack! Uchiha Zan, who was not used to the rapid increase of his own chakra, crushed the bark with his first step. Before Tsunade could laugh, he immediately took the second step. Ha! As Tsunade gradually stopped laughing and turned into an expression of disbelief, Uchiha Zan walked up the tree trunk step by step. Although he was a little unstable at the beginning, after the second and third steps, he was able to run on the tree trunk as if walking on flat ground. In a few seconds, Uchiha Zan stood where Tsunade had stood before. Uchiha Zan looked at the lush forest around him and took a deep breath of fresh air. This feeling is really good. Looking down at the stunned Tsunade below, Uchiha Zan jumped down and landed beside her. And there was no sound when he fell, which meant that his chakra control was comparable to that of Tsunade now. How did you do it? Tsunade pointed at Uchiha Zan and then at the tree trunk, still unable to understand the scene in front of her. She could see from Uchiha Zan's initial kick that he really had no training in this area. Being able to improve his chakra control to this level in such a short time was beyond Tsunade's understanding. Uchiha Zan scratched his cheek and immediately said righteously, "I am gifted." As soon as he said this, Tsunade was silent. She learned about Uchiha Zan's deeds. Although he was not the last one, he was definitely average. You are bragging about your talent now. Isn't that too much of a cover-up? Tsunade, who couldn't explain it, could only understand that Uchiha Zan was very talented in controlling chakra. Tsunade, who didn't believe in it, took Uchiha Zan to the river to try again. Looking at Uchiha Zan, who could do somersaults on the river surface in just a few seconds, Tsunade's expression became particularly complicated. The look in his eyes was almost like looking at a monster. Have I discovered a genius in medical ninjutsu? Tsunade, who returned to Konaha village, still doubted his life. Wanting to let Uchiha Zan know what difficulty was, Tsunade verbally taught him healing jutsu. This is something that only the elite among medical ninjas can do. When he can't learn it and asks her to teach him, she will teach him carefully. After doing all this, Tsunade hurried away, as if thinking about something. Uchiha Zan quickly learned the healing jutsu in his mind and walked back to the Uchiha clan quickly. After Uchiha Madara left, the Uchiha clan was divided into hawks and doves. The hawks insisted on starting a rebellion and not becoming the lambs to be slaughtered in Konaha. The doves just wanted to integrate into the village, and they didn't want to live the life of swords and swords. Uchiha Satsuna, the former leader of the hawks, was very dissatisfied with the policy of the second Hokage Senju Tobirama to govern the Uchiha clan. Later, his incitement of the Uchiha clan to rebel was discovered by Senju Tobirama, and he was quickly arrested by Anbu members and imprisoned in prison. Since then, the situation of the Uchiha clan has not been very good. Despite the Konaha Police Department, which is responsible for maintaining the village's law and order, the Uchiha clan is still not well received. The key is that members of the Uchiha clan generally look down on others. After the death of Senju Tobirama, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen took over, and the situation of the Uchiha clan has deteriorated. Now the Uchiha clan's residence has been isolated from the center of Konaha village and moved to a remote corner. And now after the Mangekyo Sharingan is activated, Uchiha Zan can clearly feel that someone is watching him as soon as he enters Konaha village. Until he walked into the Uchiha residence, this sight quietly disappeared. Although the day of the Uchiha clan's demise has not yet come, the third generation and Danzo will never show mercy when they mess with the Uchiha clan. It is now the 35th year of Konaha, and it can be said that the Second Ninja World War has begun. At present, the war is still limited to a small area and has not really spread. But judging from the fact that the ninja school has allowed students to graduate early and the increasingly solemn atmosphere in the village, the day of war is not far away. Once the real war starts, Uchiha Zan is sure that the third generation will definitely let the Uchiha clan be a filler baby. We must at least have the strength to save our lives in a limited time. Uchiha Zan set a small goal for himself, striving to have Jonin or even Cage level strength within a year. If you go below that, you will basically be cannon fodder, and there will be no way to survive on the battlefield. He doesn't want to die young. Power, beauty, absolute power, all of these he wants. The most primitive driving force made Uchiha Zan move quickly. Uchiha Zan, who who returned to the station, immediately went to find the elders of the Uchiha clan. Ever since Uchiha Madara left Konaha and Uchiha Setsuna started a rebellion, the Uchiha clan has not elected a clan leader for a long time until now. The hawkish and dovish Uchiha members are unwilling to obey each other. However, with Uchiha Setsuna being imprisoned, the hawkish Uchiha members are now at a disadvantage. After the Second Ninja World War, the Uchiha clan should officially start to select a clan leader. As for now, the elders are the ones who make the decisions of the Uchiha clan. They are responsible for handling trivial matters within the clan and allocating resources to each Uchiha member. What Uchiha Zan has to do is to show some edge so that he can get more training resources. His hurried appearance attracted the attention of many people. The three people who had just come out of the elders' hall saw Uchiha Zan walking towards them, and the mature-looking young man in the lead immediately showed a hint of displeasure. Sensing the man's gaze, Uchiha Zan looked up, then turned his gaze away with an attitude of ignoring him. That man was Uchiha Fugaku, who was a few years older than him, had graduated from the ninja school, and began to participate in the internal affairs of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Fugaku's father was the leader of the Dove faction, so he had a great reputation in the clan at a young age. He had no intersection at first, mainly because of his childhood sweetheart Uchiha Makoto. Uchiha Makoto was the granddaughter of the current leader of the Hawk faction. She was sweet and beautiful, and was popular among men in the clan. Uchiha Fugaku advocated that he marry Uchiha Makoto to resolve the conflict between the Hawk faction and the Dove faction. After being strongly resisted by the Hawk faction and Makoto's refusal, the matter was left unresolved. Since then, Uchiha Fugaku often sent people to trouble him. Before awakening the memory, he followed Tsunade out to Tansho Street, and he also wanted to avoid them. But this time, Uchiha Zan's steps did not stop at all, and he walked straight to the Elders' Hall, ignoring their intentions at all. Seeing Uchiha Zan's attitude of ignoring them, the mature-looking Uchiha Fugaku immediately frowned and looked unhappy. Before, ordinary Uchiha members like Uchiha Zan should be treated with respect, but this guy is stubborn and looks jealous. Go! Uchiha Fugaku just gave a look, and Uchiha Yaoi and Uchiha Tiehuo who followed him understood instantly. Although the Uchiha clan does not allow members to kill each other, giving each other a lesson is not included. The two genins walked quickly and looked at Uchiha Zan who was approaching with contempt. You didn't even say hello when you met us. It seems that Uchiha Zan, you still haven't learned basic etiquette. Yesterday we wanted to continue to spar with you. Where did you hide after disappearing for a whole day? Could it be that you found a hole and crawled in like a mouse? Tiehuo and Yaoi stretched out their arms with unfriendly expressions, and while speaking, they grabbed Uchiha Zan's shoulders. But before Yaoi finished speaking, Uchiha Zan, who had never spoken, suddenly jumped up. His right arm stabbed out like a sword, and his two fingers instantly grabbed Uchiha Yaoi's throat. Yaoi, who was caught off guard, had not reacted yet, and Uchiha Zan used one arm to grab Yaoi's throat and slammed it to the ground. Bang! The powerful blow caused some dust to rise from the ground. Uchiha Yaoi, who was severely injured, covered his throat and coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood before he lost consciousness. Seeing that Uchiha Yaoi, who had fallen to the ground, had lost his reaction, Uchiha Daohuo was immediately furious. He had never expected that Uchiha Zan would dare to attack them. Uchiha Zan, are you looking for death? The roaring Uchiha Daohuo's eyes instantly turned into one Tomo Sharingan, and he drew out his kunai and looked at Uchiha Zan who was lowering his head. The next moment, Uchiha Zan raised his head, and the Scarlet 2 Tomo Sharingan appeared in his field of vision on the spot. Illusion Sharingan. The two Magatama in Uchiha Zan's eyes rotated rapidly, and the pattern reflected directly invaded Uchiha Daohuo's mind. Uchiha Daohuo's face, which was originally furious, immediately became dull, and then showed an expression of fear and panic. No, no, don't kill me. No, no, I beg you. He screamed and wailed, knelt on his knees, took out the kunai in his hand and pierced his palm, making a humble and ultimate begging voice. This extraordinary development made all the Uchiha people stop and look over here. Uchiha Zan seemed to have just stepped on two ants at this moment, and raised his head to look into Uchiha Fugaku's eyes without changing his expression. The murderous oppression forced Uchiha Fugaku to unconsciously activate the two-tomo Sharingan. He stared at Uchiha Zan with a serious expression, and an emotion he had never experienced before appeared in his heart, fear. I will get it back little by little in the future. I am too lazy to play children's games with you here. Uchiha Zan left a sentence calmly, and then ignored Uchiha Fugaku and walked towards the Elder's Hall. With the recovery of his memory, Uchiha Zan completely looked down on a childish guy like Uchiha Fugaku. He only did boring and infuriating things like bullying children. If a dog bites him, he will only fight back and then beat it to death. But now this dog is protected by someone, and without absolute strength, Uchiha Zan is still unwilling to fully bar his fangs. It was not until Uchiha Zan entered the Elder's Hall for a while that Uchiha Fugaku came back to his senses. How dare you talk to me like this, he. Uchiha Fugaku, who was furious, couldn't say a word smoothly. He wanted to turn around and go into the hall to teach Uchiha Zan a lesson. It was a great shame for him that his strength as an elite chunin was frightened like this. But although he thought so in his heart, he couldn't move forward. On the one hand, his body was still trembling because of Uchiha Zan's eyes, and on the other hand, it was the miserable state of Uchiha Inahori in front of him. After calming down and gradually regaining control of his body, Uchiha Fugaku finally didn't dare to enter the hall. He quickly used the two-tomo Sharingan to dispel the illusion of Uchiha Inahide's hypnosis eye. This is an illusion that comes with the Sharingan, and it can be performed just by looking at each other. Uchiha Inahide regained her sanity, clenched her bleeding palm with lingering fear, and wailed in pain. Other tribesmen immediately sent people to carry him for treatment. After all this, the Uchiha tribesmen talked about Uchiha Zan. No one cared about the severely injured Uchiha Yaoi and Uchiha Daohuo. The core of their topic was only the two-tomo Sharingan displayed by Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Zan, who entered the outer side of the Elder's Hall, informed the guards and waited for a while to get permission before entering the center of the hall. Uchiha Zan looked up and saw the middle-aged man sitting on the side seat. Uchiha Zan glanced at the other person and ignored him. The other person was Uchiha Fugaku's father, Uchiha Toyama. The old man sitting on the other side had gray hair. He was Uchiha Shinji, the grandfather of Uchiha Makoto. Elder Shinji, Elder Toyama. Uchiha Zan bowed to the two, but his tone was obviously not very respectful when he mentioned the latter. Uchiha Toyama, who had already learned what happened in the outside world, stared at Uchiha Zan with an ugly expression. Uchiha Shinji looked at the handsome Uchiha Zan with a kind face and a smile. He couldn't wait to ask, "Shao Zan, have you opened the two-tomo Sharingan?" Uchiha Zan immediately used chakra, and his dark eyes instantly turned into two-tomo Sharingan. Good. Elder Shinji, who saw this scene, shouted 3 times in ecstasy. When he looked at Uchiha Zan, he was looking at his grandson. There are very few people like Uchiha Zan who have opened the two-tomo Sharingan at the age of 10. No matter how he opened the two Magatama, the facts are in front of him. Even if Uchiha Toyama wants to say something, he can only shut up. There is a big gap between the Uchiha tribe members who have opened their eyes and those who have not. The Uchiha members who have opened their eyes will become excellent even if they were mediocre before. For someone like Uchiha Zan who opened the two-tomo Sharingan at his age, becoming a Jonin or even a Kage level is a foregone conclusion. Shao Zan, your ninja training resources will be upgraded to the highest level immediately, and you can also move your residence to the core of the base if you want. It's all up to Elder Shinji to arrange. Having achieved his goal, Uchiha Zan naturally had no objection at all. HMPH. No matter how unhappy Uchiha Toyama next to him was, he could only snort coldly and leave. The Uchiha Hawk faction was already very weak, and it would be enough to slowly eat it up later. The sudden rise of Uchiha Zan made him a little worried. It was impossible to target him openly now, so he could only make long-term plans behind the scenes. After Uchiha Toyama left, Uchiha Shinji did not care about too many rules. He called Uchiha Zan up and asked about his well-being like an old man chatting with his grandson. Shao Zan, I didn't expect you to give me such a surprise. I hope you can grow up as soon as possible. You may have to take my place in the future. You must be careful from now on. Konaha is not as peaceful and orderly as the first and second Hokage. Your talent of opening the second Magatama Sharingan may not be concealed by the clan. I can't always protect you. I hope you understand, Xiaozan. When he mentioned the last part, Uchiha Shinji's voice became a little lower. As the leader of the Hawk faction, how could he not understand the current situation of Uchiha in Konaha? Even though the second Hokage didn't like Uchiha, he didn't deliberately target them. He even set up a special police department to let Uchiha people gain power and integrate into the village. But now the third Hokage is different. Although he seems to be easier to talk to, his methods are actually much more ruthless than the second Hokage. Strictly speaking, he used to be a dove, but the reality made him know that blindly compromising would only lead to destruction. Well, I will keep it in mind, Grandpa Shinji. Uchiha Zan nodded solemnly. Even without Uchiha Shinji's warning, he had already made preparations. Uchiha Zan could also see the worries of Elder Shinji, and he should also know part of the darkness of Konaha village now. I am very relieved by your words. I won't say more. Put away these ninjutsu scrolls. If you need the guidance of a ninja teacher to practice, you can also apply for teaching in the clan. Makoto is already waiting for you at your home, go back and see her quickly. At the end, Uchiha Shinji smiled at Uchiha Zan with relief. Uchiha Zan grew up under his watch, and he knew his personality very well. It was for this reason that he had been fanning the flames behind the scenes and helping his granddaughter to get along well with Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Makoto's parents, that is, his son and daughter-in-law, all died on the battlefield. As he was getting older, Uchiha Shinji had to consider the arrangement of his granddaughter. And Uchiha Zan in front of him was the candidate he had chosen from the beginning to the end. Before, Uchiha Zan had average talent, which made him a little worried. Now, seeing the talent shown by Uchiha Zan, Uchiha Shinji's last worry was completely put down. Hearing Elder Shinji say that Makoto was waiting for him at home, Uchiha Zan smiled awkwardly and scratched his cheek. It was obvious that the other party was waiting for him at home because he was worried about his going out. Uchiha Zan nodded repeatedly and immediately selected some ninjutsu scrolls, space sealing scrolls, and financial resources, which would be allocated to him later by the clan. This time he mainly chose Uchiha Sword Technique, Shadow Clone Technique, Body Flicker Technique, Magic Chakra Technique, and Sea-Level Fire Style Ninjutsu. The Uchiha clan basically has Fire Chakra, and other escape techniques are relatively scarce. Uchiha Zan planned to learn the Shadow Clone Technique first, and then use the clone to speed up his learning. As for his current main plan, it is to refine chakra and develop the magnet style he now has. On the way home, Uchiha Zan also planned his own purchase plan. Kunai, Shuriken, and Detonating Talisman, these three must be stocked up enough. After mastering the fire style, he can also try to make his own advanced Detonating Talisman. With the use of magnet style, he may be able to come up with a move similar to missile. The development of Chidori and Rasengan must also be put on the agenda, and there will be some busyness during this period. Thinking of this, Uchiha Zan looked up and looked forward, and a single-family mansion came into view. This is the house left by his parents. I heard that they died after going to the battlefield. It's a pity that he was only 2 or 3 years old at that time, and there are too few related memories. The house that should have been dead silent, but at this moment, there is a hint of fireworks in the air. Thinking of what Elder Shinji said before, Uchiha Zan couldn't help but quicken his pace. I'm back. After returning home, Uchiha Zan called out as usual. Welcome back, Zan-jun. A clear female voice with a hint of surprise came from the inner room. Not long after, a little loli who was a head shorter than him came out. Her black and shiny hair is as smooth as silk, and with a pair of black pupils, it exudes a pure light. She has a petite figure, and her skin is white and delicate. You can smell a faint fragrance when you get close to her. She is wearing an apron, and at this moment, she still has a hint of the charm of a wife. Xuanjin, you disappeared for a whole day, which is really worrying. Could it be that Daohuo and others bullied you? I will definitely not forgive them. Uchiha Makoto came to Uchiha Zan and breathed a sigh of relief after checking that he had no wounds. At the end of the conversation, Uchiha Makoto still spoke angrily. She recently knew that Uchiha Daohuo and others bullied Uchiha Zan all day long. And seeing Uchiha Makoto's look of defending herself, Uchiha Zan just smiled and touched her hair. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Men should let men solve their own problems. I want to protect my woman rather than be protected by her. Uchiha Zan spoke in a gentle tone in Uchiha Makoto's ear. Such straightforward words, facing Uchiha Zan's serious eyes, Uchiha Makoto was a little overwhelmed. Her face flushed with shyness, and she lowered her eyes shyly, not daring to look at the person in front of her. The girls in this world are very precocious, and the 10-year-old Uchiha Makoto also understood what Uchiha Zan meant. But this sudden confession still made Uchiha Makoto unable to bear and digest for a while. Seeing the shy and cute appearance of the girl in front of him, Uchiha Zan raised a happy smile at the corner of his mouth. Now Uchiha Makoto looks like a cute kitten, making people want to love her well. Seeing that Uchiha Makoto couldn't raise his head for a long time, Uchiha Zan took the initiative to change the topic. I'm hungry now. Makoto, I smelled the fragrance when I came in early this morning. What did you do? It's potato stew and seafood soup. I'll go in and serve it to you later. Uchiha Makoto also took advantage of the situation and hurried into the kitchen. Uchiha Zan, with a smile on his face, came to the inner room and waited quietly for Makoto to come. During this time, he took out the space sealing scroll and took out the ninjutsu scroll inside. Almost with a glance, Uchiha Zan memorized the contents of several ninjutsu scrolls. Memory and learning ability have been greatly enhanced by the opening of Mangekyo Sharingan. Controlling the flow of chakra in the body, Uchiha Zan formed the Ren seal, and a shadow clone appeared beside him with a bang. A quarter of the chakra has been consumed, and I can still separate one without losing strength. The premise of this is mainly because of his fine control of chakra, which prevents too much chakra from being wasted. If it were a genin of the same level, they would probably use up all their chakra if they separated one. Uchiha Zan separated another shadow clone, and separated a trace of mental power to control them to practice ninjutsu in the backyard. Uchiha Makoto, who came over with a pot, happened to see this scene. Shadow clone technique. Schwanjin, you actually learned this ninjutsu. Uchiha Makoto's expression was quite surprised. She also knew this ninjutsu, so she could naturally see it. In her cognition, Uchiha Zan should not have come into contact with such ninjutsu. This is what I just applied for at the Elder Hall. To be more precise, I applied for it from Grandpa Shinji. Just now, he told me that you were at my house, and I have opened my eyes. While speaking, Uchiha Zan showed his 2-tomo Sharingan. Letting Makoto know this in advance saves her from worrying about herself. I only have one Magatama, Schwanjin, you are amazing. Uchiha Makoto put down the pot and looked at Uchiha Zan with admiration. No wonder Zan felt different today, becoming more confident, mature and more charming. Uchiha Makoto, whose blush had not yet faded, was also sincerely happy for Uchiha Zan. At the same time, Makoto, who was quick-witted, quickly thought of something. Has Uchiha Zan's direct confession just now been discussed with his grandfather? If so, what happened between him and Uchiha Zan? Uchiha Makoto sat down immediately with her imagination, like a well-behaved little wife. Uchiha Makoto stared at Uchiha Zan throughout the meal, and her expression seemed absent-minded. When she was about to leave, Uchiha Zan pointed to the bathroom and asked, Makoto, do you want to take a bath before going back? Take a bath. Noticing Uchiha Zan's smiling eyes, Uchiha Makoto felt something was wrong. She didn't refuse, as she was going to do this when she got home. But after seeing Uchiha Zan follow in, Uchiha Makoto, who already knew the difference between men and women, blushed like a cooked octopus. She had always taken a bath and showered by herself before, but never shared a bath with others. Uchiha Makoto instinctively wrapped the towel tightly around her body, shrunk her little head in the bathtub, and quietly looked at Uchiha Zan who came in. Although he was only 10 years old, Uchiha Zan was already 1.5 meters tall. He had no talent in ninjutsu before, but he also worked hard to practice physical skills. With the living expenses of the Uchiha clan, he must have eaten much better than ordinary civilians. Therefore, He is taller than his peers, with sharp edges and corners, and obvious muscle lines and contours. His handsome appearance and sturdy figure are absolutely killer for any woman. Uchiha Makoto, whose heart was pounding, covered her pretty face with her hands. But those eyes were still staring at Uchiha Zan through her fingers. Uchiha Zan noticed the shy look and smiled and turned to look at Uchiha Makoto in the bathtub. Uchiha Makoto, who met the eyes, immediately shrank his head into the warm water like a panicked rabbit. And Uchiha Zan was like a hungry wolf, constantly approaching the poor little rabbit. While Uchiha Makoto hadn't raised her head yet, Uchiha Zan stretched out his hands and scratched her armpits. Itchy. She rubbed it and stood up, looking at Uchiha Zan angrily. But at this moment, Uchiha Zan didn't notice her expression, but held his breath and stared blankly at the beautiful scenery in front of him. Drops of water slid down her smooth skin, which was as pink as a sakura flower. It was a breathtakingly beautiful sight. Zan-jun, this is embarrassing. Uchiha Makoto squatted down in shame when she was swept by Uchiha Zan's burning gaze. She could only look at Uchiha Zan angrily and scold him for his pervert-like behavior in a soft tone. Unfortunately, her scolding was not painful, so Uchiha Zan didn't feel anything. He was bolder and reached out his hand gently, and after the water rippled and raised the water, he hugged Uchiha Makoto into his arms. When she leaned into Uchiha Zan's arms and felt the warmth of the close contact on her back, Uchiha Makoto was so embarrassed that she couldn't speak. She had never been so close to Uchiha Zan or anyone else before, and under such circumstances. Uchiha Zan did not make any other moves after touching Uchiha Makoto's tight and delicate skin. Uchiha Zan whispered in her ear, leaning against Uchiha Makoto's red and hot cheek. I just want to find someone to hug. Makoto, can you fulfill my wish? The magnetic voice and warm breath made Uchiha Makoto's ears and heart itch. Yes, yes. Uchiha Makoto, whose mind was blank, agreed with her pink lips slightly opened before thinking. She felt that her mind was in a mess, and her body was soft and weak against Uchiha Zan, and she had no opinion of her own. Uchiha Zan was not too presumptuous, and he was also afraid that things would go to extremes, so he could not push Makoto too close. Now that she can be in contact with him like this, basically, if they get along and get familiar with each other for a period of time, the subsequent progress will be easier. The most important thing is that her body does not allow it. I still have to train my body, and it would be best if I could deduce a physical skill that can strengthen my body. It would be too uncomfortable if I had the will but not the ability. Uchiha Zan, who was muttering in his heart, enjoyed the fragrance and softness of the soft jade in his arms. Seeing that Uchiha Zan did not make the next move, Makoto's body gradually relaxed. It seemed that through such close contact, she could feel the fatigue in Uchiha Zan's heart. After an hour, Uchiha Makoto left in a hurry without looking back. Makoto's cheeks were still hot in the cold night wind. Uchiha Zan missed the soft jade fragrance just now, and then recalled his shadow clone. After the release, the memory and fatigue of Shadow Clone's training also came to his mind. Uchiha Zan sat on the bed with a slump, lying down to rest while integrating Shadow Clone's ninjutsu experience. Although it is a great burden on the mind and body, I can bear it for now. I have basically mastered the Great Fireball technique, Hosen Fire technique, and Magic Jag technique, and I will be almost there after practicing for a while. Uchiha swordsmanship still needs a teacher to teach it, and only when facing the enemy head-on can you gain some insights. As for healing jutsu, I will try it on a wounded animal tomorrow. Lying on the bed, Uchiha Zan saw that there was still time, so he used the Uchiha chakra refining technique to refine chakra and increase the total amount of chakra in his body. This was modified by the Uchiha clan. Compared with the common chakra refining techniques in the outside world, the refining speed is obviously much faster and more suitable for the physique of the Uchiha clan. While he was refining chakra, the news about his opening of the Two-Tomo Sharingan had already reached Sarutobi Hiruzen in the Hokage's office. Sarutobi Hiruzen, wearing a Hokage hat, calmly scanned Uchiha Zan's information. Another Uchiha who has opened his eyes, a 10-year-old with 2 Magatama. Let Danzo pay a little attention to him. In the future, we must strengthen the cultivation and inculcation of the will of fire for such Uchiha people, and we cannot allow rebels like Uchiha Satsuna to appear again. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued the second-generation Senju Tobarama's caution towards the Uchiha clan, but he did not want the Uchiha clan to participate in the Konaha high level. Compared with Senju Tobarama, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt that the Uchiha clan was more of a disaster. But now the war in the ninja world is gradually spreading, and the war should be set off again. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not want to offend the Uchiha clan. In any case, the Uchiha clan is now considered the main ninja of Konaha village. Since the Uchiha clan has produced a genius, let him play a role on the battlefield. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes flashed with a hint of anger, but it was quickly covered up by his majestic temperament. Uchiha Zan got up early in the morning. Although he only refined chakra for 2 or 3 hours last night, his total chakra amount still doubled. This refining progress is dozens of times faster than before. After having breakfast, Uchiha Zan got up in high spirits and went to the Konaha village store to purchase the weapons and props he needed. With the space seal scroll behind him, Uchiha Zan split a shadow clone in the middle, pretending to be a child who went to school for leave and then wandered around. As for him, he went directly to the Uchiha tribe and used the authority of the Konaha police department to leave the village and go to the dense forest nearby. Now that graduation is approaching, there is nothing to learn in the ninja school. The only fun there is probably to take classes with Uchiha Makoto. Anyway, after returning home, he can hug the sweet and soft Makoto, so Uchiha Zan has no intention of going to school at all. The forest is more suitable for his ninjutsu and taijutsu training. He doesn't want to expose too much in the training ground of Uchiha's base. Uchiha Zan covered his legs with chakra and jumped onto a 10-meter high tree branch. Standing on a high place, he overlooked the forest, and his strong eyesight quickly caught the trace of a tiger. This tiger, which is almost 3 people's size, is a low-level ninja beast at first glance. Although it has a certain amount of chakra, it does not have the wisdom of ordinary people like the summoning beast. Ninjas generally look down on such ninja beasts, but some people will catch such wild ninja beasts for contract summoning. However, such ninja beasts without thinking and language abilities are basically used as temporary or one-time combat forces. To deal with such a ninja beast tiger, even for ordinary genin, it is not an easy task. Uchiha Zan took out several kunai with detonating tags from the space sealing scroll behind him. He immediately ran on the tree canopy and quickly came to the top of the tiger. Roar, roar, roar. The tiger, sensing the unusual sound, raised its head alertly, showing its sharp white fangs and uttering threatening growls from its mouth. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 kunai came through the air and instantly appeared in the tiger's field of vision. Roar. The fierce tiger opened its mouth and let out a tiger roar, and in an instant, a strong wind blew the kunai away. Magnet-style magnetic guidance technique. The Uchiha Zan on the tree grabbed with just 5 fingers. The kunai blown away by the strong wind immediately turned in the air and pierced the tiger's vital points from 3 different directions. Neck, back garden, waist and abdomen. Bang, bang, bang. The detonating tag also exploded on the spot, and the violent sound and the impact of the explosion shook the nearby big tree slightly. The tiger that was blown to the ground was bloody, and the charred hair and the smell of meat wafted. The power of a detonating talisman is about the same as that of a grenade. It is definitely enough to deal with ninjas who are not specialized in physical skills. Ninjas' physical strength is generally not high, and detonating talismans like this are enough to be fatal. Uchiha Zan immediately jumped down from the tree and his eyes suddenly turned to one side. It seemed that he smelled the smell of blood and meat, attracting a group of wolves who were staring at him. Noticing the corpse of the tiger and Uchiha Zan on the ground, 7 or 8 wolves immediately rushed over. Fire-style Phoenix Fairy Fire Technique. Uchiha Zan made 6 seals in 2 seconds, and spit out flaming missiles like impatience seeds. The scattered flaming missiles bombarded the wolves from all directions. With Mangekyo Sharingan's powerful dynamic vision and his own strong chakra control, every ball of fire hit the wolves without exception. Bang bang bang. The scorching temperature and the explosive impact immediately blew the 8 wild wolves to the ground, and they were dying. Uchiha Zan then retracted his gaze, came to the tiger's body and pressed his hand on it. He wanted to use this tiger to test the ability of the right eye soul transformation. Soul transformation sacrifice. The 8-pointed star in his right eye rotated rapidly, and a ball of black flame ignited in his palm to wrap the tiger. After just a few seconds, the tiger's flesh and blood were burned, and the ball of black flame wrapped with a trace of vitality returned to his right eye. The next moment, the vitality was released in his body, nourishing his young body. If there is a way to express it in a game, I think my chakra +10 and constitution +1. Uchiha Zan, who could clearly feel his physique and chakra increase a little, looked excited. Soul transformation, a pupil technique, consumes almost no pupil power when in close contact with a corpse and plunders the remaining chakra and vitality. If it is a real living person, it consumes more pupil power and it is estimated that it will not be very effective. Unless the opponent loses the ability to resist, he will never let himself suck it. Uchiha Zan quickly cast a malicious look at the dying wolves. He couldn't wait to step forward, but didn't use soul transformation sacrifice right away. Healing Jutsu. The materials for practicing healing jutsu happened to be in front of him, and Uchiha Zan decided to use their value first and then squeeze them dry. He was not proficient in healing jutsu at first, or maybe because he had not read medical knowledge, something went wrong. It doesn't matter. The dead wolves can be sacrificed with soul transfer. After all the trouble, he brought 4 of the 8 wolves back to life, 3 died, and 1 was paralyzed but still alive. But in the end, they were all sacrificed and turned into nutrients to nourish his body. 8 wolves feel worse than the tiger. A mosquito leg is a mosquito leg. If it's meat, it must be eaten. Uchiha Zan then made a seal and separated 5 shadow clone. 2 practiced ninjutsu, 2 developed Rasengan and Chidori, and 1 went hunting. As for him, he sat cross-legged on the surface of the stream to refine chakra, trying to train the control of chakra to the point of physical instinct. At the same time, Uchiha Zan was also thinking about the next direction to be deduced. It's better to create a physical technique that suits me based on what I can understand. I am not lacking in ninjutsu now, and the Mangekyo Sharingan also allows me to not have to worry about illusions for the time being. The only thing I can say is that I am weak in physical techniques. Ninjas generally don't pay much attention to physical techniques, and the physical techniques he can get are the conventional, Guken. Guken style emphasizes a head-on collision, and there is basically no technique. That belongs to the kind that he can learn directly after just watching it once. The physical techniques he needs are the ones that can really come in handy. The strength must not be too high, otherwise his pupil power will not be enough to deduce. Uchiha Zan doesn't want to go blind for this. The direction of the current deduction is Cloud Shinobi Village's Lightning Style Chakra Mode and Marine 6 Styles. Uchiha Zan's mind naturally gave birth to these 2 directions for building ninjutsu. He remembered these 2 most clearly, and they were within the scope of his ability to learn. With my own Thunder Chakra as the core, portray Lightning Style Chakra Mode. With my own physical skills and chakra as the core, portray 6 styles. The chakra accumulated during this period was consumed almost instantly. The pupil power of the left eye was constantly consumed, and while the vision was blurred, Uchiha Zan felt his own lightning-style chakra automatically condensed to the whole body. The thin lightning-style chakra covered the whole body, and the blue arc of electricity jumped around the body. The physical strength, reaction speed, and defense power were all improved to varying degrees at this moment. However, this state only lasted for a second, and Uchiha Zan, whose chakra had already been consumed, portrayed and deduced the lightning-style chakra mode. The deduced physical skills and 6 styles were not the same as the original, but were mixed with the use of chakra. Shaving became a reaction force formed by the explosion of chakra on the soles of the feet in an instant to move at high speed. Moonwalk is similar to treading water, but it is a strong air retention force generated by stepping on the air. You can walk in the air like stepping on stairs, but you can't stay in the air for too long. Tempest Kick and Finger Pistol are more about generating vacuum slashes and bullet impacts through the explosion of chakra. It's slightly different from the original, but it's obviously more suitable for me now. If he really wants to simulate the original, shave, in a split second, 0.36 seconds, stepping on the ground at high speed dozens of times in a row, he can't do it in a short time. And Uchiha Zan now has no strength to practice other 6 styles and ninjutsu. 2 consecutive reincarnation and representation put an unusually heavy burden on his body. This left eye is a little nearsighted. It's really troublesome. I don't know if it can be restored by absorbing the pupil power of other Sharingan. Feeling the obvious changes in his left eye, Uchiha Zan's mood is really not good. Before finding a way to replenish the pupil power, the ability of the left eye must be sealed. After resting for a while by the tree, Uchiha Zan felt that his vision had recovered a little. Seeing that it was noon, he was not going to stay here any longer. And his shadow clone in the village seemed to have been discovered by someone. What is Tsunade doing here? Uchiha Zan ran back to the village quickly and quietly exchanged positions with his shadow clone through the body replacement technique. When he walked out of the corner, his eyes were much brighter, no longer the mechanical and stiff expression and look of the shadow clone before. Tsunade, who was standing on the side of the road, noticed the subtle changes in Uchiha Zan and immediately greeted him. "Little boy, you are back, right? We have to continue the previous medical ninjutsu training." Isn't learning healing jutsu considered completed? Looking at the excited Tsunade, Uchiha Zan always felt that she had other purposes. Seeing his vigilant look, Tsunade went up and rubbed his black hair in a bad mood. Medical ninjutsu is not just a healing jutsu, there are many things to learn. I think your talent in other aspects is average, why don't you learn medical ninjutsu with me, and you will have some achievements in the future. Tsunade's expression was very sincere. She didn't know about Uchiha Zan's 2 Tomo Sharingan yet. Mainly because she saw his extraordinary talent in chakra control yesterday, Tsunade really had a heart to appreciate his talent. And Uchiha Zan is about to graduate. If possible, Tsunade wants to take him as her apprentice. If he dares to call her full name like this again, she will kick his ass hard. When she first met Uchiha Zan, he said Aunt Tsunade to her. After discussing for a while, they changed to calling her Tsunade. I have always refused to call her sister, so this time I will let you call me master. Seeing Tsunade's silly smile, Uchiha Zan guessed that she had bad intentions. But her bad intentions were probably just to come up with some tricks. After weighing the pros and cons, Uchiha Zan made a choice. I can learn, but I want to bring someone with me. Bring someone. Tsunade looked at Uchiha Zan in confusion, not knowing what he wanted to do. Uchiha Zan's expression was particularly serious, and he said, I want to bring Makoto with me. She is my classmate and childhood sweetheart. If possible, I think she can become a medical ninja in the future. He was making plans for the person he loved because of the war that could break out at any time recently. If the Second Ninja World War breaks out, Uchiha Makoto is likely to go to the battlefield. At that time, even if it was himself, Uchiha Zan was not sure if he could protect her. Let her get along well with Tsunade, and it would be best if she could become a medical ninja in the logistics department so that the survival rate would be greatly improved. Tsunade, who heard Uchiha Zan's request, was almost laughed at by him. You are really good, I specially take care of you and take you to practice, and you are going to bring a girlfriend. This is just normal care. Strictly speaking, the type of women I like is Tsunade. Uchiha Zan stood straight, staring straight ahead. The snow-white and deep ravine attracted his attention like a black hole. Tsunade leaned forward and almost hit him in the face. As long as he moved forward slightly, he could kiss her. Unfortunately, Uchiha Zan didn't have the courage. If he did it on the street, he would definitely be beaten half to death. Tsunade was stunned for 2 seconds after hearing this, and lowered his head to notice Uchiha Zan's sight, and he was immediately furious. I really shouldn't look at you with the eyes of a normal person. How come you, a naive kid, are even more of a jerk than Jiraiya? Tsunade subconsciously swung her fist at Uchiha Zan's head. But the punch was empty. Uchiha Zan dodged Tsunade's punch easily, like a piece of light paper. Although he didn't use too much force and didn't take it seriously just now. But the fact that he could dodge his punch like this shows that Uchiha Zan's strength is not simple. Tsunade crossed his arms and looked at Uchiha Zan in front of him very seriously. The two looked at each other for a moment, and Uchiha Zan silently took a step back and reminded, Tsunade, my little arms and legs can't withstand your punch, and your actions just now are very much like harassment. Seeing Uchiha Zan's appearance of taking the initiative, Tsunade was so angry that his chest was about to grow a few inches. What do you mean? I haven't told you what you meant just now. I was just simply stating my preferences just now. And Master Tsunade, I remind you that there are people watching nearby. Uchiha Zan pointed at the many people who were coming around. They turned their heads to chat and looked at the scene here curiously. Tsunade came to his senses and heard someone in the crowd say things like, "Master Tsunade likes handsome boys like this, no wonder you are still single," and so on. Tsunade, who was embarrassed and annoyed, didn't care about other rumors. He grabbed Uchiha Zan's collar and took him away from the crowd. "By the way, Tsunade, can I bring Makoto?" Uchiha Zan, who was dragged to an empty corner by Tsunade, spoke again with a calm expression. Tsunade, who had been tossed by him and lost her temper, waved her hands and said, okay, I'm convinced by you, you little brat. Okay, I'll go call Makoto. Tsunade, tell me a place to meet. Just come to my house." With a few words, Uchiha Zan, who took the initiative, left quickly. Looking at Uchiha Zan leaving, Tsunade's mood was quite complicated. That kid, when there were many people around, he still gave me some face and called me Master Tsunade twice. His mouth was poisonous and sweet. Tsunade held up her magnificent huge body with a very emotional expression. When she heard Uchiha Zan say that he liked her, she was very happy. Being liked by such a child means that her charm is still very great. Besides, Uchiha Zan is really good looking. You can tell at a glance that he will be a handsome guy in the future, unlike Jiraiya's uncle face that makes people annoyed. What did those people say just now? What do you mean I like younger ones? There is a reason why I am still single. If I want to find one. As Tsunade returned home, her voice lowered involuntarily. It is not easy for her to find a boyfriend. Her identity as the granddaughter of Senju Hashirama alone makes a large number of men afraid to approach. Secondly, she has high standards and doesn't like ugly ones. It would be best if he is handsome and good looking, and doesn't mind her gambling hobby, right? As Tsunade thought about it, Uchiha Zan's appearance suddenly appeared in her mind. In addition to his young age, he seems to meet all her requirements for a partner. Tsunade sat in her seat with a restless mind, and for a moment she doubted whether she was really a little boy. But the more she tried not to think about it, the more Uchiha Zan's appearance appeared. "Tsunade, I'm here." After an unknown amount of time, Uchiha Zan's shout came from outside. "Ah!" Tsunade suddenly woke up, patted her red and hot cheeks, and took a deep breath to calm her restless mind. "I was disturbed by a child. Could it be because I've been single for too long?" Suspecting that something was wrong with her, Tsunade forced herself to calm down. She walked out of the room dressed neatly, and immediately saw Uchiha Makoto, whom Uchiha Zan had mentioned. Uchiha Makoto, wearing a regular Uchiha uniform, looked cute and charming. Standing together with Uchiha Zan, the two of them were a perfect match. Tsunade narrowed her eyes slightly, and suddenly felt a little uncomfortable looking at Uchiha Makoto. No wonder this kid has to learn medical ninjutsu. He is really cute and has some of my childhood beauty. Tsunade muttered to herself, then smiled and welcomed the two in. She could show herself in front of Uchiha Zan, but when she saw Uchiha Makoto, an outsider, Tsunade subconsciously reserved herself a little. "Tsunade, I admire you very much. I didn't expect to see you here." As soon as she entered the door, Uchiha Makoto was particularly excited. She really didn't expect that she could communicate with Tsunade so closely. Tsunade is also a famous ninja in Konaha village. Not only is she the princess of the Senju tribe, but she is also the apprentice of the third Hokage. Moreover, her medical ninjutsu is often called the medical saint. It can be said that in Konaha village, there is no female ninja who does not worship and admire Tsunade. Seeing Uchiha Makoto's enthusiastic attitude, Tsunade couldn't help but feel guilty for her inexplicable displeasure with her just now. "I am also very happy to meet you, Makoto. You are so cute that many people must like you." Tsunade's greeting made Uchiha Makoto's face shy, and she subconsciously glanced at Uchiha Zan next to her. Uchiha Zan didn't care about these, but reminded, "I think school should start earlier." Seeing that he was pretending to be indifferent, Tsunade rolled his eyes and went to get the medical books. The foundation of learning medical ninjutsu is this knowledge. If you don't learn all of it healing jutsu and use it, it's easy to kill someone. The location of human organs, acupuncture points, meridians, where to stop bleeding, where to temporarily suppress toxicity, all these need to be understood. Tsunade stated very seriously, and her words reminded Uchiha-san of the wild wolves that she had killed. Yeah, then I'll learn these first. Uchiha-san behaved very honestly this time, picking up the medical book and reading it. His left eye reflection itself is also a self-knowledge reserve, so the more knowledge he has, the easier it will be to perform the manifestation ninjutsu later. Medical ninjutsu can really save lives, and being able to heal yourself on the battlefield is the most important thing. He would not think that this knowledge is heavy, and he still needs to spend energy on what he should learn. Seeing Uchiha-san so obedient, Tsunade's expression was still very surprised. This is the first time I've seen this kid so honest. The last time I saw him was when he was sleeping. Tsunade couldn't help but recall the scene of Uchiha-san lying in her arms and sleeping on her chest yesterday morning. Two blushes climbed up her cheeks, making her eyes evasive when she looked at Uchiha-san. Tsunade-sama, what does this mean? Uchiha Makoto spoke at this time, pointing to a difficult point in the book and asking Tsunade in confusion. Oh, that's what it means. Tsunade, who was thinking about it, suddenly woke up, and quickly looked in the direction Uchiha Makoto pointed, and then explained it seriously. An afternoon passed, and Tsunade went from initial surprise to unbelievable, and then numb. The reason was the pile of books next to Uchiha-san. In just a few hours, he memorized everything that ordinary people might not be able to learn in a few months. The difficulty of training a medical ninja is higher than that of ordinary ninjas, but it seems that it does not exist for Uchiha-san. After several consecutive random checks and recitations, Tsunade is sure that Uchiha-san really remembers it all. When it comes to the key practical class, Uchiha-san is also familiar with it. With the basic theoretical support, he no longer has the previous, strong force to create miracles, operation method. He healed the injured fish with a healing jutsu. And there were no mistakes in the next few times. On the other side, although Uchiha Makoto made rapid progress and can be said to be a genius in Tsunade's eyes, she is not as exaggerated as Uchiha-san, who took a rocket to the sky. It took her half an hour of repeated treatment before she gradually mastered the basics of how to use chakra to heal animals. How can you use healing jutsu, like Uchiha-san, and show you how to bring the dead back to life on the spot? It is very difficult for a ninja doctor who does not have solid theoretical knowledge and outstanding control ability to use healing jutsu. Healing jutsu must adjust the amount of chakra output according to the severity of the patient's illness, otherwise excessive chakra output will destroy the normal circulation system in the patient's body and make the patient comatose. Even though she has been through many battles, she is not as easy as Uchiha-san to use healing jutsu. Judging from his current treatment effect, Uchiha-san seems to be able to serve as an elite medical ninja. I'm a master now, right? Uchiha-san felt that he had learned well today, and looked at Tsunade with a smile on his face. Tsunade nodded subconsciously, and then immediately shook his head. HMPH, you still have a lot to learn, don't be too proud. While speaking, Tsunade communicated with Uchiha-san with a pleading look. She didn't want to lose face in front of Uchiha Makoto, and hoped that Uchiha-san would cooperate. Uchiha-san immediately understood, and immediately showed a humble expression to cooperate. Tsunade helped him so much, and it was only natural to give her some face. Unfortunately, Uchiha Makoto didn't care about what Tsunade said at all, she just looked at Uchiha-san with admiration. I have worked hard to learn for so long and still haven't learned it, but Schwanjin has actually read all of them. The few books I read and the thick mountain of Uchiha-san. This sharp contrast alone made Uchiha Makoto realize how big the gap between herself and Uchiha-san was. Makoto, who already regarded herself as Uchiha-san's girlfriend, was not jealous of this, but only felt honored by it. She also went to ask Grandpa Shinji this morning, and Grandpa Shinji expressed support for their relationship. Seeing the two of them being so affectionate, Tsunade, who was furious, asked them to go back and rest first. She didn't stay at home, but went to the Senju tribe's residence. Now, the Senju tribe has followed the instructions of her grandfather Senju Hashirama, and all the tribesmen have integrated into Konaha village. The Senju tribe's residence, which was prosperous in the past, now only has a few people left. And she came this time to find her grandmother, Uzumaki Mito, who has been staying in the Senju tribe's residence. When she entered the courtyard, there was an old red-haired woman sitting on a chair. When Tsunade saw the old lady, she immediately shouted with joy, "Grandma, I'm back." Uzumaki Mito heard Tsunade's shout, smiled kindly and asked, "Tsunade, how are you getting along with that Uchiha kid? I'm afraid his talent is even more exaggerated than what I told you yesterday." Tsunade muttered softly, and then answered truthfully. She came to chat with Uzumaki Mito as usual last night, and mentioned Uchiha Zan. Although she wanted to teach him, Uzumaki Mito also instigated her. When she heard Tsunade describe how exaggerated his talent was, Uzumaki Mito asked slowly, "What is his character like?" "He is a little devil, but he also knows how to give me face in front of outsiders. My impression of him is neither good nor bad." Tsunade's eyes were a little evasive, and she randomly picked a few of her own thoughts and said them. Hearing this, Uzumaki Mito nodded slightly, with no change on his expression. "He should be graduating soon. If you agree with me, Tsunade, you can accept him as your apprentice." "I have the same idea, but why are you instigating this, Grandma? I always feel that you have some special ideas, and I don't know why you pay so much attention to that kid." Tsunade looked at her grandmother in confusion, not quite understanding her thoughts. Looking at Tsunade in front of him, Uzumaki Mito just shook his head. His granddaughter is good in everything else, but she is not very interested in politics. And as a disciple of the third generation, she is also deeply influenced by him and cannot look at the problem from a third-party perspective. Although she didn't participate in politics much, she had been following Senju Hashirama all the way, so how could she not see clearly? Since the third-generation Sarutobi Hiruzen came to power, she had seen the situation in Konaha clearly. Now that the war in the ninja world has reignited, she has a premonition that big changes will happen in the village. At the beginning, the Senju tribe was integrated into Konaha under the instruction of Hashirama, but it did not really disappear after all. But now, under the step-by-step guidance of the third generation, the backbone of the Senju tribe has been invested in the battlefield. Once this generation dies out, the Senju tribe can be said to be dead in name only. And Nawaki, who was supposed to succeed the position of Senju chief, has a simple and kind character, and is not as strong as his grandfather, so he can't handle big things at all. Uzumaki Mito didn't dare to let him take this position, so he could only adopt a free-range training method to let him grow happily. She didn't have much time left, and Uzumaki Mito was afraid that after her death, the Senju tribe would also be completely destroyed. She asked Tsunade to contact Uchiha Zan, but in fact she wanted to connect with the power of the Uchiha clan. They can be said to be the excluded party, and Uzumaki Mito, who was born in the Uzumaki clan, did not mind the Uchiha clan. She knew about Uchiha Zan's opening of the two-tomo Sharingan earlier than Tsunade. If this future Uchiha elite can become Tsunade's apprentice, and if he has a good character, it is possible that he can become a bond between the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan. The union of these two once largest families in Konaha will at least not be forced to disappear in the long river of time. Especially the recent attitude of Sarutobi Hiruzen has made Uzumaki Mito's worries even more. You know, the Whirlpool country has sent more than one message for help. Their Uzumaki clan started with strong vitality and sealing techniques. Now the ninja villages involved in the war do not want the Whirlpool clan to unite with Konaha. The situation over there is getting worse and worse, but Konaha village, as the land of whirlpools and the home of their Uzumaki clan, has not made any moves so far. And she also lost her voice in Konaha as the Senju clan gradually died out. Her power is limited to the identity of Hashirama's wife and Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and she can't persuade Konaha village to send troops to protect the land of whirlpools. How could Uzumaki Mito not see that the third generation now thinks that the price of protecting the Uzumaki clan is too high? And Konaha has already mastered the sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan, and they don't need their Uzumaki clan members anymore. Tsunade, I need you to tell Hiruzen now that my body is failing and I must find another Jinchuriki. As for the candidate, I need an Uzumaki clan member. Uzumaki Mito, who was touching Tsunade's head, suddenly spoke up, and the serious tone and content of the sentence made Tsunade difficult to accept. Tsunade forced a smile on her face and said, "How could that be, Grandma? You are still in good health." "I know my health well, Tsunade, just do as I say." Uzumaki Mito smiled kindly, and Tsunade naturally didn't dare to say anything more. Although she didn't know why her grandma specifically mentioned the need for the Uzumaki clan, she immediately set off for the Hokage building. Tsunade came to the Hokage's office and immediately told him what Uzumaki Mito had told her. After listening, Sarutobi Hiruzen narrowed his eyes slightly, immediately smiled kindly and nodded. "I know about this matter, but the situation in the Whirlpool country is not good recently. The various ninja villages are eyeing them, and they may do something bad to the Uzumaki clan." Sarutobi Hiruzen, knowing that he couldn't hide it, euphemistically told the Uzumaki clan about their current bad situation. Tsunade, who heard Sarutobi Hiruzen say this, instinctively sensed something was wrong. The situation in Whirlpool country is not good, why didn't she get the news before? And Konaha village is obviously an ally of Whirlpool country, and the village has not passed on relevant information. This question flashed through her mind, and Tsunade didn't think too much but immediately said anxiously, "Then send people to support." Now the major ninja villages are eyeing Konaha, and most of the ninjas have gone to the front line. Even Jiraiya, Orochimaru and others, I have begun to mobilize and arrange them to go to the battlefield. At this moment, sending people to Whirlpool country for support is really powerless for Konaha. Sarutobi Hiruzen made a very difficult expression, and sighed to express Konaha's current situation. From his context, Konaha is already in trouble at this time, and it is impossible to send people to Whirlpool country. Although he still felt something was wrong, Tsunade was speechless and didn't know how to continue. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was sitting in his seat, changed the subject and said in a deep voice, "In any case, the Uzumaki clan is our Konaha's most solid ally. I will make arrangements immediately." Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's serious tone and expression, Tsunade was relieved. She was about to leave, but suddenly remembered something and turned around. Sarutobi Hiruzen was startled by Tsunade's action and thought that her stupid brain realized that she was stalling for time. When he was preparing to say another thing, Tsunade said, "Old man, I want to ask you for a favor. I plan to take in 2 apprentices to train. They are from the Uchiha clan." "Uchiha clan? Which 2? Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes sharpened instantly. Tsunade had no intention of hiding anything, and said casually, "One is called Uchiha-zan, and I played a few games with him in the casino before. Later, I found that he was very talented in medical ninjutsu, so I decided to take him as my apprentice. The other one is called Uchiha Makoto. She is Uchiha-zan's childhood sweetheart, and her talent is also okay, mainly because the kid wants to take her with him." Hearing that it was Uchiha-zan, Sarutobi Hiruzen immediately became interested. After hearing the process of Tsunade and Uchiha-zan's acquaintance, Sarutobi Hiruzen's mouth twitched. "Should I say that the way you met is really unique, and you met in the casino?" Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that Tsunade would not lie, so he did not investigate anything. To be honest, he was very tempted. If Tsunade accepted Uchiha-zan as his apprentice, he could also use this opportunity to pull him to his own faction and teach him the will of fire. If a new Uchiha Kagami can be created, it will be a great thing for himself and Konaha. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had made up his mind, showed a kind smile on his face. "I will arrange this matter immediately. It just so happens that the students of the Ninja Academy also need to graduate early. At present, the war is about to strike, and the graduation time of the Ninja Academy must be advanced." After the discussion, not long after Tsunade left, Danzo came to visit. His roots are closely connected with Anbu, and he will know any action from Anbu at the first time. As soon as he entered the Hokage's office, Danzo asked with a dark face, "Hiruzen, what do you mean by handing Uchiha-zan to Tsunade? I have already reserved it." When Sarutobi Hiruzen asked him to pay attention to Uchiha-zan, Danzo was ready to receive it in the roots. But before he did anything, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly handed the member he selected to Tsunade, the female gambler. "This means that we have lost a useful talent in one fell swoop. At the age of 10, he has already opened the 2-tomo Sharingan. If he is trained well, it will become a sharp sword in his hand. And in Danzo's opinion, letting the Uchiha clan contact the Senju clan is not a good sign. They have already agreed to reduce the influence of the two clans in Konaha step by step. Danzo, the route is not suitable for Uchiha Zan. We need to train another Uchiha Kagami. The third generation looked calm and was not affected by Danzo's anger at all. Hearing this, Danzo also completely understood that the third generation was preparing to pull Uchiha Zan to his side and train him to be a tool in his hands. Danzo, who was full of anger, saw the Hokage hat on Sarutobi Hiruzen's head, and he didn't dare to vent anything. Danzo could only lower his head and whispered, "What are you going to do about the Whirlpool country?" Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of cigarette and pondered for a moment. The Uzumaki clan's sealing technique is too dangerous. Once it falls into the hands of other ninja villages, the consequences will be disastrous. Are you going to implement the same strategy as before and add fuel to the flames behind the scenes? Danzo made a gloomy voice, staring at Sarutobi Hiruzen with narrowed eyes. Danzo's idea of dealing with the Uzumaki clan is the same as Sarutobi Hiruzen's. Now that the war between the parties is imminent, the Uzumaki clan's terrifying sealing technique that can seal the tailed beasts is feared by all forces. And Konaha has already obtained the relevant sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan in advance. The Senju clan now has no say in Konaha, and their idea is to let the Uzumaki clan sacrifice. They will then send people to destroy the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique, which will not only eliminate a possible uneasy force, but also further enhance the gold content of Konaha's sealing technique. Maybe it can also be used as a tool to threaten other ninja villages to exchange interests. After all, not every ninja village can perfectly seal the tailed beasts. If the seal is not perfect, the tailed beasts are easy to get out of control. This is equivalent to placing a time bomb in other ninja villages, making them tense all the time. Facing Danzo's response, Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed and said faintly, "Uzumaki Mito asked Tsunade to tell her that she is going to select the next generation of Jinchuriki, and the candidate must be from the Uzumaki clan." "Humph, it's enough to be a good container for Jinchuriki, and you still want to tell us what to do." Danzo snorted coldly and responded with a somewhat disdainful tone. The Senju clan, the backer of Uzumaki Mito, has now been integrated into Konaha and has lost its arrogance. To put it bluntly, the old ancestor, who has no right to speak, is just a signboard and has no right to give them orders. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not interrupt Danzo's statement, but asked calmly, "Then Danzo, you should know what to do." "The roots know." Danzo bowed his head and responded, then walked out of the Hokage's office. For the prosperity of the village, the roots can only dig deep into the darkness. The deeper they are, the more nutrients they can absorb. Danzo knew very well how to act. Danzo returned to the roots, sat in his main seat, and murmured, "If she wants it, then choose an orphan of the Uzumaki tribe for her." After that, Danzo gave orders to let the members of the roots go to the Whirlpool country and be on standby at any time. Early in the morning, Uchiha Zan had to follow Makoto to the ninja school. Today was the day for graduation and class division, and everyone would be assigned a teacher to lead the class. It was reasonable for him to come and show his face. But when he saw the figure pushing the door in, Uchiha Zan's expression was quite surprised. Tsunade, who had a ponytail and wore a formal Konaha shinobi uniform, but could not hide her majestic and huge figure, stood in front of him and Makoto with her arms folded and a proud face. "Ha ha ha, brat, you didn't guess it." Seeing Uchiha Zan's surprised expression, Tsunade laughed out loud. The bright brown pupils were also curved like crescents, showing the joy of the owner. "I have to say that the old man of third generation is really efficient. I will assign her today." "Master Tsunade, you are our leader, that's great." Makoto, standing gracefully beside Uchiha Zan, was very happy with a smile on her face. Tsunade also nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, yes, you have to let the teacher know from now on." Tsunade came to Uchiha Zan and emphasized it immediately. Uchiha Zan rolled his eyes and said speechlessly, "Shouldn't your leader teacher have an assessment?" Quote. As soon as these words came out, Tsunade, who had been complacent, suddenly reacted. "Yes, he still has to take a genin assessment." If he fails, he will be sent back to the ninja school for reassignment or study. HMPH, I know without you reminding me that you can't deliberately fail. Looking at Uchiha Zan's look, Tsunade said unhappily. In fact, judging from Uchiha Zan's performance yesterday, the assessment was just a formality. Regardless of whether he can pass or not, Tsunade is not going to send him back. This is a good opportunity to let this naive kid know his authority as the leader. Full of confidence, Tsunade immediately brought Uchiha Zan and Uchiha Makoto to a secluded forest and waved to the two. Although medical ninjas do not focus on strength, they must have basic combat qualities. Tsunade is also ready to make them understand that ninja battles are very dangerous. Makoto, let's go. Okay. Uchiha Zan and Makoto looked at each other and immediately understood what each other meant. The two rushed out at the same time, attacking Tsunade from two directions, one on the left and one on the right. Uchiha Makoto showed one Tomo Sharingan, drew a shuriken and threw it immediately. At the same time, Makoto made a seal with both hands, ninjutsu shadow shuriken. The shuriken flying in the air instantly changed from 1 to 5, and shot towards Tsunade's position without slowing down. Ha! Tsunade stepped on the ground with one foot, and the ground shook and exploded. The surging energy instantly blew away the attacking shuriken. Although the attack failed, Uchiha Makoto did not show any regret on her face. Fire-style Great Fireball Technique. Uchiha Zan on the left had already completed the seal, and he opened his mouth and spit out a hot fireball as big as a basin. This fierce attack surprised Tsunade. Something is wrong. How come this kid's attack is comparable to Chunin? Tsunade immediately raised the chakra in his body and concentrated it on his right fist. Strange power, break it for me. The fierce punch instantly exploded the fireball, and the hurricane that broke out even shook the ground under her feet. The scattered sparks lingered around her, and Tsunade looked up and looked straight into Uchiha Zan's eyes. Magic Jag Technique. Tsunade's vision suddenly changed, and he came to a magic space where the sky and the earth were blood red. Puff, puff, puff. Large iron nails appeared out of thin air and nailed Tsunade firmly, fixing her in place. Her outer body also suddenly stiffened for a moment, and she stood there unable to move. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Uchiha Zan lightly touched Tsunade's snow-white neck with her fingertips. Tsunade, who immediately broke free from the illusion, had a stiff expression, and was somewhat unable to accept the fact. What happened? She was supposed to be a weak opponent, but why did she suddenly lose? Well, Teacher Tsunade, you should have lost, Uchiha Zan said to Tsunade in front of him with a slightly smiling tone. Uchiha Makoto next to her also had a smile on her face. She didn't expect the battle to end so quickly. No, I underestimated you just now. Let's do it again. At this moment, Uchiha Zan's smiling face could be said to be cheap in Tsunade's eyes. Tsunade's mentality collapsed and she continued to challenge without any respect for her teacher. Heavenly kick. She raised her slender and plump thigh and then slammed it down. Bang! The ground instantly sank and exploded, collapsing with Tsunade as the center. Uchiha Zan, who was hit by the aftermath, used 6 styles paper arts to unload all the strength in his body, allowing his body to float lightly in the air. The air wave did not hurt him at all, but only pushed him more than 10 meters away. There was a hint of fighting spirit on his face, and he took this opportunity to test his fighting power. At the moment Uchiha Zan landed, Tsunade had already attacked him. Strange power. The seemingly delicate pink fist blasted a sonic boom when it was swung. Uchiha Zan sensed the airflow generated by Tsunade's movements and dodged Tsunade's punch at the critical moment. The raging wind hit the entire field, and Uchiha Makoto, who was 20 meters away, could feel the strength of the punch. At this time, Uchiha Zan had completed the seal in his hand. Bang! 2 shadow clone appeared on the field and immediately blew the horn of counterattack. Tempest kick. Finger pistol. 1 shadow clone kicked in the air, and instantly rolled up a vacuum slash to kill Tsunade. The other shadow clone gathered the power in his fingertips, combined with chakra, and blasted out a powerful impact that was enough to penetrate the human body in a flash. Tsunade had no time to dodge and could only raise her hand to block it. The sharp vacuum slash tore her cuffs on the spot, leaving a slight wound on her white wrist. The finger pistol impact that shot in, hit her abdomen with one blow. The concentrated impact force forced her body back several steps. The force penetrated through her skin and flesh, and then injured her internal organs. The severe pain made her move for a moment, but this time Tsunade did not relax her vigilance like before. The huge amount of chakra in her body burst out instantly, forcibly suppressing the injuries on her body. She immediately raised her head and slapped away the kunai thrown by Uchiha Zan. "Kid, I won't let you succeed this time." She stepped on the ground with one foot and came to Uchiha Zan at several times the speed before. Tsunade gradually understood Uchiha Zan's strength, and the chakra concentrated in her hands increased again. Strange power. She punched out mercilessly, instantly piercing through Uchiha Zan's body, and smashed the ground with one punch. The next moment, dense cracks spread outward, and the land within a radius of more than 10 meters exploded and sank. The terrifying impact shocked Uchiha Makoto, who was watching the battle. Seeing Uchiha Zan's body being pierced, the one Tomo Sharingan in her eyes suddenly rotated. 2 Magatama, 3 Magatama. In just a moment, Uchiha Makoto possessed the 3 Tomo Sharingan. "Zan-kun," she cried out in grief, and while her momentum was still rising, she suddenly stopped approaching. What made Uchiha Makoto stop was Uchiha Zan, who appeared out of nowhere behind Tsunade. Tsunade was stunned for a second after being pierced through Uchiha Zan's body. She thought Uchiha Zan would dodge, or at least resist some of the force. After all, according to the physical skills shown by this kid, he would never be pierced so easily. And in this moment of daze, Uchiha Zan, who was pierced through the abdomen by Tsunade, turned into white smoke and disappeared with a bang. Shadow clone. When Tsunade suddenly reacted, and at the same time she felt a gust of wind coming from behind. Rasengan. Uchiha Zan pinched out the Rasengan with one hand and hit Tsunade's back hard. Tear. The strong spiral destructive force instantly tore the clothes behind Tsunade. The next moment, Tsunade exploded on the spot and turned into a piece of wood. The remaining force of the Rasengan hit the wood, and instantly turned it into a pile of flying sawdust. Tsunade, who appeared several meters away, looked at Uchiha Zan not far away with lingering fear. If this was a battle of equal strength, he would have been killed by this kid. "Kid, you are really ruthless, I am defeated." Tsunade was completely convinced at this moment, and felt that the Uchiha clan had produced a monster. With just the few tricks he showed now, Tsunade didn't know what he could teach him. At this time, Uchiha Zan did not reply, but just stared straight in the direction of Tsunade. Because the clothes on his back were torn by the Rasengan, Tsunade, who used the body replacement technique to escape, had not yet reacted. The pieces of cloth hanging in front of the peaks were difficult to cover the beautiful scenery of the snow. The beautiful outline swaying with breathing really made people subconsciously hold their breath, not wanting to miss every second of the wonderful moment. Are you listening?" Tsunade noticed Uchiha Zan's absent-mindedness and looked down. "Ah!" she screamed instantly, her cheeks flushed like sunset. Tsunade was so anxious that he stretched out his hand to try to block it, but because of the large amplitude of his movement, the snow waves rolled and the rags fell lightly to the ground. "Why don't you have a mobile phone now?" Uchiha Zan subconsciously wanted to take out his mobile phone to take pictures of this beautiful scenery, but suddenly realized that he didn't have it now. He looked up again in frustration, but only saw Uchiha Makoto, who was smiling but exuding a gloomy aura. Uchiha Makoto, smiling, slightly opened his eyes. The blood-red 3 Tomo Sharingan exuded the ultimate sense of oppression. "Zan-jun, please turn around." It was more like a request than a request. Glancing at Tsunade, who was so embarrassed that she squatted on the ground and blocked the beautiful view from behind Uchiha Makoto, Uchiha Zan naturally did not dare to refuse. Okay. Uchiha Zan immediately turned his back like a gentleman. Seeing Uchiha Zan turned around, Tsunade was relieved immediately. If it was before, she might not be so shy. But after getting along with Uchiha Zan for the past 2 days, she seemed to have regarded Uchiha Zan as a peer in her heart. Uchiha Makoto also rushed to Tsunade immediately. Although she was very angry that she had just attacked Uchiha Zan, she couldn't say anything in this situation. Makoto took off a coat and asked Tsunade to put it on quickly. "Thanks, Makoto." Tsunade let out a long sigh and stood up. Her face was still slightly flushed, as beautiful as a newly blossomed peach blossom. Makoto, who saw this scene, couldn't help but sigh in her heart that Tsunade-sama was really beautiful, even though she was a girl. When this emotion arose, she also noticed Tsunade's magnificent Mount Targon. She couldn't help but look down at her own, and after comparing, she couldn't help but feel a little sad and envious. When will her flower bud grow to the size of Tsunade-sama? Uchiha Zan had turned around at some point, holding his chin and looking over here. Uchiha Makoto's coat could only barely cover the front, and Tsunade stood up holding one hand. After noticing Uchiha Zan's gaze, she immediately lowered her head shyly. The mature charm of the queen and the shyness of the girl were integrated at this moment. This made Uchiha Zan feel an indescribable itch. At this time, Tsunade could only shout in a stern voice, "Little ghost, don't look at me." Her words were still trembling, and Uchiha Zan heard a bit of reluctance in them. "Zan-jun," Uchiha Makoto's voice also came over. "Ahem, I just think I should be able to help, and I have my own clothes." Uchiha Zan coughed twice, took out a loose coat from the space seal scroll behind him, and diverted his attention. Although Tsunade wanted to complain, why Uchiha Zan would bring clothes, and why the size was so similar to hers. But now that she could get out of the predicament, she didn't care about so much. When Uchiha Zan came over, she grabbed the clothes in his hand. Before she put them on, Uchiha Zan grabbed her wrist and stopped her action. "I'll treat the wound on your back first, and then you put on your clothes." The somewhat stern tone made Tsunade lower her head obediently. Uchiha Zan's hands immediately glowed green, and gently covered Tsunade's white and smooth jade back. The palms and warm touch of the opposite gender made Tsunade's ears become rosy and cute. Her heart was pounding, and her brain was blank, completely frozen in place, unable to move. The treatment of healing jutsu did not take too long. After all, Makoto was watching next to her, and Uchiha Zan could not continue to enjoy it. After healing the wounds on Tsunade's wrists and back, he immediately stood up and turned around like a gentleman. And Tsunade had not yet reacted, lowered his head and lowered his eyes, squatting on the spot with his skin tight. "Tsunade, Schwanjin has been treated." "Ah, okay, oh." Tsunade quickly stood up and put on his coat. Originally, clothes of her size were custom-made. But the coat Uchiha Zan gave her was a perfect fit. After the matter was settled, Uchiha Zan asked seriously, "We should have passed the assessment, right?" "Of course." Tsunade gritted her teeth and responded to Uchiha Zan word by word. Rather than an assessment, it was more like she was beaten up unilaterally. And she was humiliated, like this, which was something she would never forget. In the future, Tsunade didn't know if she could raise her head in front of Uchiha Zan and Makoto. "How come you have so much combat experience, and what are these weird moves?" Tsunade rubbed Uchiha Zan's head fiercely, as if she wanted to return all the humiliation she had just suffered. Unfortunately, her behavior did not annoy Uchiha Zan at all. Facing the childish Tsunade, Uchiha Zan chose to bear it. He shrugged helplessly and said, "I have been using Shadow Clone to practice on myself recently, and those moves are all figured out by myself." Quote. Why can you say it so lightly? Tsunade really realized that his previous understanding of Uchiha Zan was completely wrong. This guy is not only a genius in medical ninja. He can create such ninjutsu and taijutsu at such a young age, and his future achievements are immeasurable. In addition to shame, Tsunade has a sense of pride. "Ahem, I think you should change your name, right?" Tsunade cheered up and looked at Uchiha Zan with a smile. Even Uchiha Makoto suddenly felt that the current Tsunade was a bit mean. Uchiha Zan was speechless. Tsunade was entangled in this. He didn't have the desire to compete in this regard. What's the point of calling her teacher? It's more interesting to call her a traitor to her teacher. Okay, Teacher Tsunade, how about this title? Uchiha Zan looked at Tsunade teasingly. Seeing him say it so easily, Tsunade seemed to be deflated like a punctured ball. She had a sense of pride, but why did it suddenly disappear now? Her punch was like hitting cotton, and it had no other effect except making herself angry. Uchiha Makoto on the side was also laughing, and then she called out sweetly, "Teacher Tsunade, do you like me calling you that?" Seeing the two of them singing the same tune, Tsunade was even more angry but helpless. Uchiha Zan didn't mean to continue torturing Tsunade. Since she was her teacher, she naturally had to make the best use of her. Then, my dear teacher, I have some questions to ask you now. Quote. Tsunade suddenly felt that being Uchiha Zan's teacher didn't seem to be a good thing. I was just naked by you a few minutes ago, and now I come to ask for advice seriously. Can't you give me a break? Just tell me, don't ask weird questions. If you want to learn my super strength, I can teach you. Tsunade still cheered up, patted her chest with confidence. Although she has never been a teacher, she thinks she is also very good at teaching. Looking at the shaking giant, Uchiha Zan blinked and refocused. This is the disadvantage of being with Tsunade, the mental power is always not very focused. I want to ask about chakra's nature transformation. You have already started to get in touch with this. Tsunade glanced at Uchiha Zan with complicated eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. This is not a difficult thing. Uchiha Zan really asked a serious question. It would take an ordinary person several years to learn chakra's nature transformation. It should be easier for you. In the first stage, you need to learn how to continuously and stably deliver chakra of the corresponding nature. In the second stage, you need to learn how to instantly increase the amount of chakra released. The third stage is also the most difficult. You need to learn how to integrate it with jutsu. For example, the jutsu we are using now was created by our predecessors through such nature transformation. What was that thing you used just now? Tsunade asked in a low voice at the end. Rasengan. Uchiha Zan saw that Tsunade was stuck, and added a sentence beside him. After Tsunade understood, he immediately continued. The Rasengan you used just now should be made by simply concentrating chakra. If you use nature transformation in it, you can create a new ninjutsu. When she said this, Tsunade couldn't help but be surprised at Uchiha Zan's creativity. When she was Uchiha Zan's age, she didn't even learn a few ninjutsu, let alone creating new ninjutsu. The Rasengan that Uchiha Zan used just now was quite interesting. It didn't need to be used to guide chakra, and could be used directly. Tsunade, who had experienced it firsthand, also knew that its destructive power was very good. If she was asked to classify such ninjutsu, she would classify the Rasengan ninjutsu as A level. Tsunade didn't think about it anymore, but took Uchiha Zan and Makoto back to the village. To practice chakra's nature transformation, some practice materials are also needed. As for Uchiha Makoto, she continued to practice medical ninjutsu. She had to adapt to the changes in herself after opening the 3 Tomo Sharingan in one go. Once the Uchiha clan opened their eyes, and the more Magatama they opened, the stronger their talents would be. It was basically a foregone conclusion that the 3 Tomo Sharingan would become Jonin in the future. Uchiha Makoto couldn't wait to tell her grandfather about this news. For such a good thing as Uchiha Makoto's opening of her eyes, Uchiha Zan was going to celebrate for her. However, it can be seen from this that Makoto's feelings for him were really deep. If he hadn't changed back from kunai just now, it felt like Makoto would have opened Mangekyo in one go. The Uchiha clan is very extreme in terms of emotions. Makoto won't become a yandere, will she? Uchiha Zan cautiously glanced at the beautiful Uchiha Makoto beside him. Always pay attention to Uchiha Zan, and when he saw him peeking at him, Uchiha Makoto immediately returned a sweet smile. But this smile, inexplicably, made Uchiha Zan shudder all over. Thinking about the Uchiha clan in his memory, it seems difficult to find one that is not extreme. Uchiha Obito is even more heavyweight, and this kid's personality is similar to Naruto before he turned evil. My Makoto seems to have such potential. If there is a chance in the future, should I pretend to die for a while to stimulate Uchiha Makoto to open Mangekyo? For a period of time later, when practicing chakra nature transformation with Tsunade, Uchiha Zan's mind would think about this problem from time to time. During this time, the situation in the Whirlpool country gradually spread in Konaha village. Sarutobi Hiruzen, smoking a big opium, stood in front of the window of the Hokage's office, looking at the Senju tribe's residence in the corner of Konaha village. It seems that they are really anxious. We have to send someone to do something. Muttering, Sarutobi Hiruzen called Danzo. Is the route ready? Yes, they have entered the territory of the Whirlpool country. Now the ninjas of Cloud Shinobi, Sand Shinobi, and Rock Shinobi have gathered there. When the time comes, I will order the route to provoke a war and attract the ninjas of other ninja villages to take action. When everything is almost done, the route will select a potential Uzumaki tribe member. Danzo looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with gloomy eyes and responded coldly. He has worked hard to deal with this matter. Sarutobi Hiruzen doesn't want to do anything. He asked him to do these trivial things with just a few words. This made Danzo very dissatisfied, and at the same time, his desire for the position of Hokage became stronger and stronger. Seeing this situation, Sarutobi Hiruzen no longer dragged it down. He immediately gave an order and issued an S-level rescue mission. Due to the urgency of the situation, Konaha is powerless. It depends on which ninjas will take over. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked out the window calmly, as if he was talking about something very ordinary. Danzo, who was standing behind him, felt a chill in his heart. Now most of the genin and chunin have been transferred to the front line. It can be imagined that the ninjas who can stay in Konaha village must be elites, waiting for subsequent deployment. Sarutobi Hiruzen's conspiracy is to force the Senju clan to further consume their ninja resources. The ninjas who are willing to take such a dangerous mission and go to the Whirlpool country to rescue must have a close relationship with Uzumaki Mido. These ninjas are undoubtedly the elites left by the Senju clan. In such a situation where all forces want to wipe out the Uzumaki clan. Even if the Senju elites go there, without the support of Konaha village, they will definitely die even if they don't do it themselves. He only thinks of some shady tricks like assassination and provocation, while Hiruzen not only uses open tricks, but is also much more ruthless than himself. Tsunade, who was at the Senju tribe's residence and soon learned that Konaha had issued a rescue mission, was silent for a long time. Grandma, it's really the same as what Xiaoshuan said, the old man has been dragging it on. When accompanying Uchiha Zan in training, Tsunade also chatted with him about some things. When the Uzumaki clan was mentioned, Uchiha Zan reminded her a few words. She didn't believe it before. After all, based on her understanding of the third generation, he shouldn't be such a person. But as time goes by until now, Tsunade has to believe it. Uzumaki Mido tapped Tsunade's forehead and sighed. I said don't look at him as young, he is much smarter than you. Grandma, you didn't tell me before, how could I think of so much? Tsunade, who was covering his head, looked aggrieved. Uzumaki Mido asked back, why did they think of this? Tsunade was speechless. She could only change the subject and said, Grandma, I'm going to take the rescue mission now. Slow down, let Doma, Hayasu, they go with you, there is no other way now. Put your own life first when necessary. Uzumaki Mido knew that this mission would put some of the Senju tribe and Tsunade in danger. But she couldn't watch her people perish. The Senju and Uzumaki tribes were also the best allies, and they were obliged to send people to support them when one side was in trouble. The only problem was that Sarutobi Hiruzen had too little time. She could only ask Tsunade as much as possible to let her and the Senju ninjas save their lives. When Tsunade organized the team to go to the land of whirlpools, Uchiha Zan, who got the news, stopped the wind-style Rasengan that was gradually condensing in his hand. Although less than a week had passed, he had already learned the basics of chakra nature transformation. He also did not stop hunting wild animals and using reincarnation sacrifice to absorb their chakra and vitality. In terms of chakra alone, he had reached the Chunin standard, and his physical strength alone could definitely beat ordinary Chunin headbutts. Even without using the Mangekyo Sharingan, I am capable of competing with Jonin. If they underestimate the enemy like Tsunade did before, I can even kill them head-on. Uchiha Zan, who was confident in his heart, was ready to follow Tsunade's team to the land of whirlpools. He guessed that Uzumaki Kushina was brought to Konaha during this period. If he was lucky, he could also get in touch with her in advance. After all, the other party is the future Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and it is only beneficial to have a good relationship with her. In addition, Uchiha Zan has another purpose, which is the corpses of ninjas in the Whirlpool country. Once the war breaks out there, the corpses of ninjas will definitely be everywhere. So far, my reincarnation has not absorbed the chakra and vitality of ninjas. Uchiha Zan's expression is eager to try, and ordinary beasts can't meet his requirements at all. As for how to get out, Uchiha Zan used the power of the Uchiha clan in the Konaha police department as usual. It should be said that this is really convenient. With his status in the clan, he can let them open a back door to go out. Uchiha Zan, who set off immediately, specially brought 2 space sealing scrolls. After preparing everything he should prepare and telling Makoto in advance, he set off for the Whirlpool country. In order to avoid being discovered by Tsunade and others, Uchiha Zan deliberately stayed away from their team. When he arrived at the Whirlpool country after Tsunade's team, the war on the border had already started. Various forces were besieging the village of the Uzumaki clan from different directions. Relying on the powerful barrier technique and geographical advantages, the Uzumaki clan put up a tenacious resistance. Cloud Shinobi, Sand Shinobi, Rock Shinobi, Mist Shinobi, all the forces that should and shouldn't come are here. Uchiha Zan didn't expect that the battle forces on the Whirlpool countryside were so complicated. Although they all took off the forehead protector logo, Uchiha Zan could roughly distinguish them from the ninjutsu they released and the team's cooperation. There are people here. The perception ninja in the Mist Shinobi ninja team quickly discovered Uchiha Zan peeping from a distance. In an instant, 5 elite chunin quickly approached this side. Water-style Mist Shinobi technique. The Mist Shinobi chunin in front immediately formed a seal and blew out a thick mist from their mouths. The spreading thick mist obscured the surrounding environment, but it had no effect on Uchiha Zan. Relying on the sharp insight of Mangekyo Sharingan, he still saw the position of the 5 elite chunin. Uchiha Zan, who had already used transformation technique to disguise his appearance, brushed his palm across his trouser pocket and pulled out 5 kunai with detonating talismans attached to them and threw them. Watching Uchiha Zan throw them in completely opposite directions, the Mist Shinobi chunin who were approaching were all amused. They couldn't help but relax their vigilance and shouted directly to the chunin in front, "Kill this minion quickly." They still had to rush to the village of the Uzumaki clan to fight, and they didn't want to waste time on this minion. Magnet-style magnetic guidance technique. In a place they didn't notice, Uchiha Zan grabbed with his hands with a calm look. 5 kunai turned around silently and pierced into the necks of 5 people at lightning speed. They were caught off guard, and before they could show their stunned expressions, Uchiha Zan shouted softly, "Explode!" Bang bang bang. The detonating talisman exploded instantly, blowing the heads of 5 Mist Shinobi chunin into the sky. Several headless corpses fell to the ground, and the blood trickled down, which looked extremely terrifying. But Uchiha Zan didn't feel anything, and muttered softly, "It seems to be no different from killing a few beasts before." He didn't know whether it was because of his strong psychological endurance or because he was bloodthirsty by nature. Uchiha Zan didn't have time to think about these questions. While the thick fog had not yet dissipated, he went up and pressed his hand on the bodies of Mist Shinobi chunin. The remaining chakra and vitality of these corpses were rapidly fading. He must hurry up and eat them up. Chapter 11. Transformation and Sacrifice. Uchiha Zan did the same thing and burned the 5 bodies of Mist Shinobi chunin to ashes. The black flames, carrying several chakras and vitality, immediately flowed into Uchiha Zan's body. My physical fitness has obviously improved. The chakra I just consumed has not only recovered, but also increased a lot. The excited Uchiha Zan also noticed a slight change in his body. Since he has now mastered the nature transformation of chakra, he can directly perceive the properties of his own chakra. After absorbing the chakra of these Mist Shinobi chunin, Uchiha Zan found that his chakra properties had an extra, water. This unexpected gain was beyond Uchiha Zan's expectations. By the way, he licked a bag and looted everything on several Mist Shinobi ninjas, and then Uchiha Zan immediately left the place. Uchiha Zan hid in the nearby forest and checked the kunai, shuriken and detonating talismans he had looted. After this, his supplies became even richer. Looking at the battlefield with flames rising to the sky again, Uchiha Zan's eyes became excited and greedy. In his eyes, the ninjas on the battlefield are all experienced babies. The battlefield is already chaotic enough, don't mind making it a little more chaotic. Uchiha Zan grinned with a sunny smile, and instantly condensed a Rasengan in his hand and injected lightning-style chakra into it. Lightning-style Rasengan. Uchiha Zan locked a ninja and threw the Rasengan in his hand on the spot. The next moment, the Rasengan flying in the air disappeared in the air in a blink of an eye. Ordinary Rasengan will not disappear during movement, but Rasengan fused with lightning-style chakra cannot be easily seen by others. Sand Shinobi Chunin, who was attacking the barrier of the Uzumaki clan village, just noticed something strange, and the disappearing Rasengan hit his temple. Bang! The flying Rasengan pierced through the Sand Shinobi's head like a bullet. The exploding brain and skull, like fireworks, covered the faces of his teammates. Ah! Seeing their companions suddenly die, the teammates around him screamed in fear. The next second, a Chunin teammate next to him suddenly had a big hole in his chest. The Chunin himself looked down at himself in confusion, and fell forward with severe pain in his body. Not long after, except for the elite Jonin who immediately covered the evacuation of some teammates, almost 10 Chunin fell in a pool of blood. Uchiha Zan, who was hiding in the dark, immediately ordered the shadow clone beside him to drag the body over. He was grinning from ear to ear now. It felt so good to keep shooting cold arrows in the dark. With the chakra he had absorbed before to replenish the consumption, even if he split 2 shadow clones and threw more than a dozen lightning-style Rasengan in a row, his chakra did not run out. When another corpse was reincarnated sacrificed, Uchiha Zan unexpectedly found that there was an extra ninjutsu in his mind. Wind-style vacuum sphere AB level ninjutsu. When exhaling, the chakra in the air is ejected like a bullet, and several wind-style light waves are ejected to attack the enemy, similar to the Fengxian fire technique. Is there a chance to obtain ninjutsu? This is a pleasant surprise. The ninjutsu obtained in this way is also very proficient. As soon as he got started, Uchiha Zan could use it easily. I sense that there is a chakra fluctuation here. Is it an escaped Uzumaki? Chase immediately. The commotion made by Uchiha Zan quickly attracted many ninjas to approach this side. When they saw Uchiha Zan disguised as a black-skinned man, their first reaction was a ninja from Cloud Shinobi village. Since the Uzumaki clan was under siege by various forces, they also agreed not to hurt each other. Therefore, the rock shinobi ninjas who came, the elite Jonin who led the team, did not take action immediately but wanted to check. If it was the Uzumaki clan in disguise, then kill them without mercy. If it was the real Cloud Shinobi ninjas, they would not invade each other. Magnet-style nail kill. As soon as the rock shinobi ninjas came forward, Uchiha Zan took action immediately without saying anything. Several iron nails buried nearby suddenly flew up and stabbed the rock shinobi team accurately. The vigilant elite Jonin immediately took action, and when the first iron nail pierced his neck an inch, he quickly used the kunai in his hand to knock away the iron nail. Bang bang bang. The detonating tags wrapped around the iron nails exploded instantly, immediately severely injuring the Chunins except the elite Jonin. It's the enemy. The surviving rock shinobi Jonin and Chunin immediately took up a fighting stance. Several Chunin formed seals with their hands and slapped their palms on the ground. Earth-style rock pillar prison. As the ground shook, dozens of earth pillars broke out of the ground and formed a cage to imprison Uchiha Zan. The leading rock shinobi Jonin followed closely behind, forming seals and shouting, "Earth-style rock thief stick." The rocks under his feet instantly turned into sharp spears, flying out and piercing Uchiha Zan who was imprisoned in the earth prison, as if they were going to stab his body into a hedgehog. Lightning-style chakra mode iron body. In an instant, violent lightning-style chakra surged out of Uchiha Zan's body, and he was immediately covered with a layer of lightning armor. At the same time, Uchiha Zan used lightning and chakra to stimulate his body, making even his skin as hard as steel. Several rock spears that were strong enough to penetrate a tree pierced straight at Uchiha Zan, breaking into dust as soon as they hit his skin. Tempest kick Ranlei. Uchiha Zan supported himself with one hand, and swung his feet at high speed, instantly creating a thunderstorm whirlwind. The lightning vacuum slashes that kept flying out easily tore the cage that imprisoned him. Cloud Shinobi, I knew they had bad intentions. Because lightning style restrains earth style, Iwagakure and Cloud Shinobi village have always been at odds with each other. Seeing the lightning style and ninjutsu displayed by Uchiha Zan, as well as the iconic black-skinned man's appearance, they knew with their buttocks that the ninja in front of them was definitely a Cloud Shinobi ninja. The rock shinobi Jonin, who was horrified, was just about to fight him head-on. But he suddenly felt his body stiffen, and his muscles were numb as if he had been electrocuted. "Ah, I can't move. Me too, my body is numb." Several Chunin behind Rock Shinobi Jonin also screamed. Only a few Chunin were safe and sound, and without exception, they were not injured by the iron nails. "Is it poisonous?" Rock Shinobi Jonin gritted his teeth and stared at Uchiha Zan, who walked out of the smoke and dust. "The medicine is effective, no wonder I asked the tribe for it." Uchiha Zan had a sunny smile on his face. In fact, not only the iron nails, but all the weapons on his body were poisoned. He also specially picked the paralysis toxin that took effect the fastest, just to be prepared. Lightning-style Chidori. Uchiha Zan, who didn't want to waste time talking to the other party, grabbed with his right palm and gathered high-intensity electric current in his hand in an instant. This ninjutsu takes into account chakra nature transformation and form change, but it took a lot of effort to learn it. Zzzzz. In the bursting lightning, the piercing sound like 1,000 birds chirping reached everyone's ears. Before everyone got used to the piercing roar, Uchiha Zan had disappeared in the lightning. The next moment, Uchiha Zan's right hand pierced through Rock Shinobi Jonin's chest, blasting his heart into pieces. Lightning-style chakra mode and Chidori double enhanced speed. If it weren't for Mangekyo Sharingan, I'm afraid I really can't see it clearly. The speed of the stab was really too fast, and without the blessing of Sharingan, he couldn't see the enemy clearly. But the effect was also very significant. Even without the paralysis toxin, he should be able to kill Rock Shinobi Jonin in front of him in one blow. Run. Even though his heart was shattered, this Rock Shinobi Jonin still held Uchiha Zan tightly in front of him. The Rock Shinobi Chunin who could move behind him wiped their tears and fled without hesitation. Reincarnation sacrifice. The Rock Shinobi Chunin who were only concerned with escaping did not notice that Uchiha Zan used his pupil technique to burn the Rock Shinobi Jonin to ashes. The rich vitality and chakra poured into his body, replenishing the consumption of Uchiha Zan just now. After that, he did not chase those Rock Shinobi Chunin, but set his sights on the remaining Rock Shinobi ninjas who were poisoned and unable to move. After sucking all the chakra and vitality in one wave, Uchiha Zan could feel that his total chakra amount was among the elite among the Chunin. Compared with before, the physical strength was enhanced by at least 1/3, and even the vision of his left eye was restored a lot. And his chakra attribute now had an additional, earth. It seems that the excess vitality can replenish the consumed eye power. Try to replenish the previously consumed eye power before the end of the war in the Whirlpool country. Uchiha Zan was excited, and the only thought in his mind was, kill, kill, kill. As for the two ninjutsu used by Rock Shinobi just now, although he did not learn it by absorbing chakra and vitality, the Mangekyo Sharingan has been recorded. Basically, as long as he practices for more than 10 minutes, he should be able to use it easily. In the next few days, Uchiha Zan wandered around the battlefield. He was the type who would beat anyone he saw, and he used different ninjutsu in a mean way. When he met Rock Shinobi ninjas, Uchiha Zan used lightning style exclusively. When he met Mist Shinobi ninjas, Uchiha Zan used wind style exclusively. When he met Cloud Shinobi ninjas, Uchiha Zan used earth style exclusively. Because of his stirring, the pattern of the battlefield also changed. Now when ninjas from all sides see ninjas from other ninja villages, they can't wait to bite off the heads of the other ninjas. Despicable Rock Shinobi, they only attack us from behind. What qualifications do you Cloud Shinobi have to say about us? You two are beasts. Kurigaker, did I provoke you? I would like to ask, what is the merit of a Tsunade to be attacked by 3 waves of you in one day? Now all the ninja villages have torn their faces apart, and started to curse each other's ancestors by name. The chief of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Ashisui, and Tsunade and his group in the Uzumaki clan village also noticed the unusual movements on the battlefield. Why are they fighting among themselves? Originally, the Uzumaki tribe was almost unable to hold on as various forces united against them. But now they were fighting each other, giving them a little breathing space. Tsunade, did you send anyone in to disrupt the battle? Uzumaki Lushui looked at Tsunade and his group beside him, and asked curiously. At the beginning, I saw Tsunade bringing the allies of the Senju tribe, and I didn't see them arranging such disruptive tactics outside. Tsunade was also confused at this time, she didn't do that. Uchiha Zan, who was touching the corpse on the battlefield, silently said, "Don't thank me." Uzumaki Lushui, who realized that Tsunade didn't understand either, didn't continue to think about these things. Since the other side was in internal strife, he had to take advantage of this time to fight for his own people's survival. Now the barrier of the village is about to be broken. We don't expect to go to Konaha village. We just hope that some of the tribe members can find a place in the mountains where no one knows about it and live in seclusion. Uzumaki Ashasui told Tsunade about the current situation and the Uzumaki clan's subsequent plans. From the current statement of Konaha village, the Uzumaki clan no longer has hope for Konaha village. The Senju clan's declining Konaha is no longer the best ally of the Uzumaki clan. They trust the Senju clan, but not the current Konaha. Listening to Uzumaki Ashasui's words, Tsunade lowered her head in shame, and the Senju clan ninjas behind her also showed helpless expressions. After coming here for a few days, Tsunade learned that the Uzumaki clan had already sent out a request for help. It can be said that Konaha completely ignored it, which led to the current situation. Recalling some of the words that Uchiha Zan had told her, Tsunade also realized that the respected Sarutobi Hiruzen in her mind was not as he seemed on the surface. Uzumaki Ashasui did not blame Tsunade and the others. The fact that they could sacrifice their lives to come to the land of whirlpools alone was worthy of their respect. He turned to ask the Uzumaki member beside him, "Have the young tribesmen been sent out?" "Chief, they have left the village through the various secret passages in the village. But we can't estimate how many of them can survive. Now that the enemy is in internal strife, even if we intercept the troops, there should be loopholes. We will work hard to defend the village and buy time for the Uzumaki tribe's fire." Several Uzumaki tribesmen echoed, their eyes full of determination. Looking at the scene in front of him, Tsunade's heart was very touched. Unfortunately, she couldn't escort the Uzumaki tribe members who left. Too many people would be counterproductive. Only by attracting more attention from enemy ninjas on the front line could their safety be guaranteed. "Uzumaki leader, it's time for us to evacuate." Tsunade spoke at this time, looking at the other party with a firm look. Uzumaki Lushui hesitated to speak, but finally nodded. The Uzumaki tribe's fire plan is divided into two parts. One is to send the young Uzumaki tribe members away from existence through the secret passage. The other is for the remaining Uzumaki tribe members to rush out a way to escape, and at the same time attract firepower for the tribe members of the former plan. Strictly speaking, the latter plan is completely to die. Uzumaki Lushui couldn't bear to let Tsunade and the others die with him. But none of Tsunade and the Senju ninjas planned to retreat. Uzumaki Ashimazu knew that they were going to follow him, so he couldn't refuse. When they organized their troops to break out, the parties in the melee also realized their actions. The Uzumaki clan is preparing to break out and escape. We must intercept them, we can't let them live. Knowing the horror of the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique, they knew that they had offended the Uzumaki clan. If you want to prevent the Uzumaki clan from counter-attacking, you must cut the grass and root it out. The temporarily reconciled ninjas immediately chased in the direction Tsunade and the remaining Uzumakis fled. Uchiha Zan followed closely behind and entered the ruined village of the Uzumakis. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he sighed with pity. "I'm afraid no one will collect your bodies in the future, so let me help you deal with the bodies." This time Uchiha Zan did not reach out to touch, but stood in place to show Mangekyo Sharingan. He glanced at the batches of corpses, and a touch of black flames appeared in his eyes. This is a new way of using soul transformation that he realized after using it many times in a row. Directly touching soul transformation does not require the consumption of pupil power, and this way of external absorption. My pupil technique is a variant of Amaterasu, but it does not have the characteristic of Amaterasu that it will not disappear before the target is burned out. His black flame burning requires the consumption of pupil power, and such a large-scale use will also put a burden on his body. But in this situation, it would be too slow to burn them one by one. And as the black flame returned to his body, the surging chakra and vitality immediately filled the consumption of the eye technique just now. More importantly, Uchiha Zan could clearly feel the chakra and vitality of the Whirlpool clan transforming his body. More than 130 trillion cells were undergoing earth-shaking changes at this moment. Not long after, Uchiha Zan felt the huge amount of vitality overflowing from the inside out of his body. He softened the skin of his arm and used the unpoisoned kunai he picked up to gently scratch it. A wound several centimeters long appeared on his arm, and the scarlet blood just oozed out, and the wound scabbed and healed. I should have the physique of the Uzumaki clan, belonging to the category of Uzumaki sage body. Considering that he could not use the vigorous vitality in his body, Uchiha Zan did not think he had touched the level of Yang escape. If I absorb the chakra of the Senju ninja, I don't think it will work. The most unique one in the Senju is Senju Hashirama. Senju Hashirama is the reincarnation of the chakra of Ashura, the second son of the Sage of Six Paths. Ordinary Senju people have never seen them use wood style. And even if some people can use it, the scale and strength are completely different from Senju Hashirama. If I want to materialize wood style, do I need to obtain Senju Hashirama's chakra? Suppressing the thought spreading in my heart, Uchiha Zan sensed the total amount of chakra in my body. With the change of my own physique, the total amount of chakra directly increased to Jonin level. If I can calm down and refine it well, it is definitely not a dream to reach Kage level in a year. Most importantly, the Uzumaki sage body I have now can help me relieve the consumption of Mangekyo Sharingan. In this way, the upper limit and number of times I can transformation and portrait in the future can be increased a lot. I have separated 5 shadow clone before, hiding them in various places in the Whirlpool country according to the terrain. I will go to help the Uzumaki clan first. After sacrificing so many corpses of the Uzumaki clan, and considering his relationship with Tsunade, Uchiha Zan was still prepared to help the Uzumaki clan. And the moment he moved, Uchiha Zan suddenly stopped. More than a dozen kunai and shurikens flew towards him from the dark. Back, Uchiha Zan just glared, and all the kunai and shurikens close to him flew back to their original owners. Bang bang bang. After a few crisp sounds, the kunai and shurikens fell to the ground. Behind him, 5 ninjas wearing strange masks came. 1 elite Jonin and 4 elite Chunin. They were silent, and the moment they appeared, they killed Uchiha Zan. They are one of the root ninja team sent by Danzo to the land of whirlpools, responsible for collecting useful corpses. But they didn't expect that when they came to clean up the battlefield, they saw Uchiha Zan burning and absorbing all the corpses. Although they didn't know what he was doing, they still discussed to capture him. Danzo ordered that in addition to taking back an Uzumaki orphan, he also issued an order to collect several useful materials. Such a strange ninja in front of him met the requirements no matter how you looked at it. Lightning-style shadow clone technique. Although Uchiha Zan didn't know which unit this was from, he knew that this was a fierce battle. Because he just had the Uzumaki sage body, his current chakra volume was increasing every minute. He conjured up 5 shadow clone in one breath. The moment the shadow clone appeared, it immediately launched a counterattack. Earth-style yellow spring swamp. The root Jonin immediately formed a seal with both hands and slapped the ground with one hand. The soil under Uchiha Zan's feet immediately liquefied to form a huge swamp. After restricting Uchiha Zan's actions, the root Jonin formed a seal again. Wind-style vacuum wave. The next second, dozens of rotating wind blades spewed out of his mouth and rushed towards Uchiha Zan. Lightning-style chakra mode iron body. Uchiha Zan accelerated the blood flow, making the body harder, while lightning-style chakra also lingered around his body. The activated body directly withstood the cutting of dozens of wind blades. The clothes on his body instantly turned into a pile of rags, and were blown into the sky by the wind. The exposed muscles exuded an iron-like luster, and even if they were hit by the root Jonin head-on, they were not damaged at all. Cloud Shinobi Village's secret technique. The knowledgeable root Jonin frowned immediately. He had never thought that the ninjas who stayed here to do tricks were Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas. Knowing the Cloud Shinobi Village ninjas' lightning style and physical skills and the powerful root Jonin, they immediately retreated and distanced themselves as soon as possible. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he felt something tightly wrapped around his ankles. The root Jonin looked down and saw that it was a ball of inconspicuous black sand iron. Magnet-style sand iron binding. Uchiha Zan whispered in his heart, and at the same time his 5 shadow clone were blown up by 4 root chunin. Bang! Sizzle! The exploded shadow clone did not disappear, but instantly turned into lightning and blasted at nearby life forms. Its power was not very high, but it was enough to paralyze the 4 root chunin for a short time. Magnet-style sand iron violent spear. Under Uchiha Zan's control, a huge amount of sand iron was compressed and condensed, forming a long spear that nailed the 4 root chunin to the spot. Earth-style earth flow wall. Only the root jonin formed a seal in time and quickly created an earth wall in front of him to block the attack. But the iron sand that bound his legs did not stop, and began to drill into his body desperately. Seeing this, the root jonin remained silent, and gathered wind-style chakra in his palms to cut off his legs. Puff! Blood spurted out, and Uchiha Zan felt a phantom pain in his legs from a distance. And the root jonin seemed to have no sense of pain, and his hands did not slow down at all. Magic tree binding kill. Root jonin formed seals with his hands and immediately used illusion on Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Zan's eyes were blurred, and a big tree appeared in his vision, stretching out its roots and tightly wrapping around him. Root jonin attacked Uchiha Zan brazenly, as if he wanted to die with Uchiha Zan. It's a pity to use illusion against me. Under these eyes, none of your illusions will work. Uchiha Zan's eyes showed Mangekyo Sharingan, and the illusion of root jonin was bounced back on the spot. At the moment he froze in place, Uchiha Zan threw a kunai and pierced his heart. At the end of his life, Sharingan, looking at Uchiha Zan's eyes, couldn't help but groan in shock. Right, Sharingan, you are. With the last question, Uchiha Zan released black flames to burn his body. Other corpses were not spared, and after absorbing all of them, the chakra just consumed was restored again. Looking at the masks that fell on the ground, Uchiha Zan vaguely guessed the origins of these people. It's not an animal mask like Anbu, and the masks are more colorful. The ninjas from other ninja villages are basically going to hunt down the Uzumaki clan, so they are probably members of the root. Uchiha Zan murmured in a deep voice, his expression was very cold. As a member of the Uchiha clan, the obstacle that cannot be avoided is Danzo. If he had the ability, he would kill this old fool first. He always gets involved in various events, and he always plays the most disgusting role. If he guessed correctly, the current situation of the Uzumaki clan was probably caused by the people of the root. Uchiha Zan shook his head and didn't think about it anymore. Anyway, his reincarnation sacrifice can be regarded as destroying the corpse, so it is not so easy for the root to find out about him. He immediately set off and killed in the direction of the Uzumaki clan's retreat. When Uchiha Zan caught up with the retreating Tsunade and the Uzumaki clan, he found that their situation was better than he expected. It seemed that because he had changed the course of history, the Uzumaki clan had few casualties with the protection of Tsunade and others. Several elite jonin of the Senju clan stood behind them, and together they made a seal and shouted, "Earth-style Tulu Dahi." In an instant, the mud on the ground turned into a flowing mud river, and a huge wave hit the ninjas who were chasing them. The ninja teams were each in their own camp, and they took action to defend themselves. The few elite jonin jumped out of the mud river to kill, and Uzumaki Asui cooperated with the remaining Uzumaki jonin to use sealing techniques. Adamantine sealing chains. Dozens of chakra chains flew out from their backs and bound the leading ninjas in an instant. The powerful sealing ability caused them to fall into the mud river and lose their ability to chase. Summoning technique Katsuyu. Katsuyu Tsunade in the crowd also summoned the summoning beast, Katsuyu, and after they split into many small Katsuyu, they attached to each ninja. Through the splitting of Katsuyu, her chakra was transmitted to each injured ninja, and the healing jutsu was performed on them. Since the retreat, the Uzumaki clan has lost no more than 10 people, and more than 80% of the credit should be attributed to Tsunade. Her truly powerful medical ability was fully demonstrated at this moment. They fought and retreated, and their state was always maintained at a good level. The ninja coalition of various forces, because of the previous Uchiha Zan, they still had suspicions about each other. Moreover, there are not many medical ninjas nowadays, and it is common for a ninja team to be without medical ninjas. They can only recuperate on the spot when they are injured, and it is impossible to recover their combat effectiveness immediately. Seeing that some of their ninjas were healing on the spot, Uchiha Zan naturally would not let go of this opportunity to stab them in the ass. Magnet-style iron sand shotgun. Uchiha Zan waved his hand, and countless iron sand shot out like bullets. Puff, puff, puff. The ninjas who were caught off guard did not expect the attack at all. The dense iron sand instantly shot into their bodies and embedded in their flesh. The severe pain all over their bodies further aggravated their injuries, and the iron sand that had entered their bodies began to flow wantonly, causing secondary damage to their internal organs. Reincarnation sacrifice. Uchiha Zan unceremoniously released black flames, drowning and devouring the dying ninjas, burning them to ashes. Enemy. There are enemies behind us. The ninjas who were still alive in the back shouted at the top of their throats. Seeing their companions behind them in trouble, the ninjas chasing in front immediately stopped. They turned their heads and saw their companions being burned to ashes by the black flames. Black flames. Is it Amaterasu from the Uchiha clan? Is this the reinforcement from Konaha? Many elite jonin who participated in the first Ninja World War screamed in fear. All the ninjas who participated in that battle remembered the horror of Uchiha Madara and the Uchiha clan. The inextinguishable black flames burned their companions to death one by one. The nightmare scene reappeared before their eyes again. The Uzumaki clan and Tsunade also cast their eyes over here. Seeing the figure wearing a mask and only revealing the pair of scarlet eyes, everyone was also greatly shocked. They couldn't figure out why the Uchiha people appeared here and came to help them. Tsunade's mind was also in a mess. There were only a handful of people in the Uchiha clan who could open the Mangekyo Sharingan. No matter what, the other party had nothing to do with the Uzumaki clan. Uchiha Zan, who was using his eye technique to kill the enemy from a distance, licked the wave bag again. Feeling the chakra that was almost overflowing in his body, he made seals with both hands, fire-style great fireball technique. Huff. A ball of scorching fireballs several people high was spit out from Uchiha Zan's mouth in an instant. The fireball streaked across the sky, charring the ground wherever it passed, and the flowers and plants were burned to ashes in an instant. It was obviously just AC-level ninjutsu, but at this moment, with the blessing of a huge amount of chakra, its power was no less than any A-level ninjutsu released by any elite jonin. Quick, block it. The ninjas who could not raise chakra for the time being immediately yelled at their companions around them. Water-style great waterfall technique. Several elite chunins made seals together and sprayed huge water balls from their mouths to bombard the incoming scorching fireballs. Zzz bang. At the moment when the water ball and the fireball collided, high-temperature steam immediately swept the entire venue. The ninjas who were closer were cooked into corpses by the high-temperature steam on the spot, and the remaining ninjas were also blown away several meters away by the strong impact. The water style of several elite chunin, under the condition that the water style restrained the fire style, could only barely block the opponent's attack. This scene made most of the remaining ninja coalition lose the idea of continuing to pursue the Uzumaki clan. They leaned against each other and faced this unknown enemy in full battle array. But when the steam dissipated, Uchiha Zan's figure disappeared from the eyes of the ninjas. Uchiha Zan was not prepared to fight the ninja coalition head-on. With hundreds of people, he would have to use Susanoo to fight back if they were surrounded. The result might be a life-and-death struggle, and he might not be able to make up for the loss. And he didn't want to expose too much, it would be uncomfortable if he was blamed. During the time when Uchiha Zan was delaying, Tsunade led the Uzumaki clan to escape from the battlefield. After escaping to a safe enough area, everyone slowed down temporarily. Tsunade was puzzled all the way, and kept recalling the 8-pointed star Mangekyo Sharingan in his mind. Who is that Uchiha? Why do I feel so familiar? Just as Tsunade was about to take a breath, a dozen jonin and dozens of chunin suddenly appeared in the open space not far away. The number of ninjas alone was almost half of the ninja troops of various forces before. Each of them wore a mask, and it was completely unclear who their true identity was. Everyone looked at each other and immediately tensed up their nerves, ready for battle. Through the Yamanaka clan ninjas in the root organization, Danzo got the information here as soon as he used perception transmission and mind transmission technique. Seeing so many Uzumaki people, Danzo frowned immediately. Are the ninjas from other ninja villages all trash? Never mind, Kill all these Uzumaki and Senju people, Tsunade can't move. Danzo immediately gave the order, and the Yamanaka clan ninjas around him passed the order. The root ninjas in front of Tsunade and others looked at the Uzumaki clan with cold eyes after receiving the order. Every root ninja needs to receive self-annihilation training, and they will also be cursed to keep secrets. Each of them is an absolute killing machine and will only follow Danzo's orders. Even when facing the Uzumaki clan, who were supposed to be their allies, the Gen ninjas did not hesitate to kill them immediately. It's the enemy, be prepared and defend. Seeing the Gen ninjas coming, the panting Uzumaki clan's remaining fighting force and the Senju clan ninjas immediately raised their spirits to meet the enemy. Due to the pursuit of the previous ninja troops, their physical strength and chakra have been severely damaged. If it weren't for the physical fitness of the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan, they would not be able to hold on until now. Tsunade almost had no strength left. Just continuing to treat everyone would make her chakra bottom out. Tsunade, who had lost her fighting power, could only watch the situation become one-sided. They had already escaped, but they didn't expect to fall into the enemy's ambush. It's really worrying. Uchiha Zan, who caught up from behind, quickly saw the fleeing team fighting with the root magnet-style sand iron rain. Uchiha Zan formed the sand iron around his body into pieces of stone and shot them at the root ninja at high speed. The well-trained root ninja immediately dodged and blocked, blocking this wave of attacks comparable to shotgun bursts. They all looked at Uchiha Zan not far away and immediately organized an offensive. Earth-style earth submersion. 2 root ninjas immediately formed seals and fled underground, attacking Uchiha Zan at an astonishing speed. Fire-style dragon fire technique. 3 root chunin who specialized in fire-style formed seals and attacked at a rapid speed. The 3 of them simultaneously released a straight line of flames, blocking Uchiha Zan's retreat from 3 directions. The rapidly attacking flames easily blasted through the big tree blocking the road, and the terrifying momentum was shocking. Before Uchiha Zan took action, the Yamanaka clan ninjas in the root team also cooperated to launch the Yamanaka clan's secret technique. Heart turn technique. The spiritual power that attacked directly hit Uchiha Zan, who was surrounded by flames. The spiritual power of this root ninja also came to Uchiha Zan's brain. He immediately urged his spiritual power to seize and control Uchiha Zan's body. But when he acted, a pair of blood-red Mangekyo Sharingan suddenly appeared in this pure white space. Get out of my mind. Uchiha Zan concentrated his spiritual power and used his own pupil power to directly blast the spiritual power that invaded his body out of his body. The root ninja who performed the secret technique suddenly widened his eyes, and scarlet blood oozed from the corners of his eyes, mouth and nose. Mangekyo. Before he finished his words, he fell unconscious. At this moment, Uchiha Zan, who had broken free from the other party's spiritual control, had his legs clamped tightly by the root ninja who had dived into the ground. And the 3 flames that attacked were not far from his eyes. Uchiha Zan's dark eyes instantly turned into blood-red Mangekyo Sharingan. The mysterious 8-pointed star pattern spun rapidly in his pupils. The pupil power disappeared like a flood in the Jedi, and the huge amount of chakra in his body gushed out. The next moment, golden ribs made of chakra materialized appeared on Uchiha Zan's body. Bang bang bang. The fire-style fire dragon technique, released by the 3 root chunin, instantly hit this layer of ribs. The vented flames were easily blocked, and the impact of the explosion was completely absorbed by the rib shield. In the shocked eyes of everyone, everything is far from over. A pair of golden arms materialized and stabbed the ground under Uchiha Zan's feet. Boom. The heavy ground was instantly crushed by the giant hand, and the 2 root chunin who were holding Uchiha Zan's legs were pinched by the palm. Realizing the danger, they wanted to drag Uchiha Zan to death, but the giant hands suddenly tightened before them. Pa! In an instant, the 2 turned into 2 pools of meat in front of everyone. Only the bloody arms were still hanging on Uchiha Zan's legs. Disgusting, take it off. Uchiha Zan was like a king, ordering the Susanoo he constructed to tear off the hands on his legs. The terrifying Mangekyo Sharingan looked at the root ninjas. The chakra that erupted from his body became more and more intense, and a nearly 10-meter-tall golden skeleton rose from the ground. The golden skeleton with only the upper body exuded the ultimate sense of oppression that made everyone present breathless. In the first form, Susanoo clenched her hand bones, and an illusory golden giant sword appeared in her hand. Uchiha Zan approached quickly, and Susanoo swung the giant sword in her hand at the same time, slashing at the root ninja with the force of splitting mountains and cracking the earth. After a brief shock, the root ninja tried to fight back. Wind-style vacuum sphere, lightning-style thunder ball, water-style water dragon bomb. Ninjutsu blasted towards Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Zan in Susanoo's body did not dodge or evade, and directly withstood this series of ninjutsu attacks. The attack that was enough to kill several Jonin was completely blocked by Susanoo. You guys have to take my attack too. Uchiha Zan, with an excited smile on his face under the mask, controlled Susanoo to drop the giant sword. Boom! The ground within a radius of dozens of meters shook and exploded, and 7 root ninjas died under the Susanoo giant sword with just one strike. But even though they realized the obvious gap between the enemy and us, the root ninjas did not give in at all, and tried to fight with Uchiha Zan. As root ninjas, they have no names and no emotions, and completing the mission is the meaning of their lives. And facing these ignorant root ninjas, Uchiha Zan also smiled and gave them the end they deserved. That is death. Chidori flow. Uchiha Zan injected lightning-style chakra into Susanoo, and thousands of electric shocks burst out from the skeleton in an instant. The strong electric current covered all the root ninjas, causing their bodies to become paralyzed and stiff. Uchiha Zan easily caught the opportunity at this moment, and in an instant, the giant sword in Susanoo's hand slashed horizontally. Swish! A horizontal slash swept across the body, and the surging electric light mixed with the sword energy was like a sickle cutting wheat, cutting the root ninja and the tree in half. A breeze blew gently, and the broken bodies and the big tree fell down at an angle. The forest centered on Uchiha Zan instantly swept out a playground-sized open space. The Uzumaki clan and Tsunade, who had foresight and stayed away from the battlefield, looked at the scene not far away with their hearts and lungs stopped. The sharp sword energy and surging electric light exploded in front of them. If several Jonin had not used Earth-style defense in time, they would probably have died in the aftermath. From the time Uchiha Zan showed the incomplete form of Susanoo to the end, less than 3 minutes had passed. Uchiha Zan, who had his back to everyone, had a slight ooze of blood in his eyes, but it was not serious. I was not very skilled at using Susanoo for the first time. Fortunately, I had enough pupil power and I also obtained the Uzumaki sage body before. Uchiha Zan could clearly feel that his body was under a heavy burden. Every cell was over-extracted from chakra. If Susanoo was used for a long time, it would definitely shorten his life. The tenacious vitality of the Uzumaki sage body helped to withstand this shortcoming. So far, he just felt that his breathing was not smooth, as if he had run for dozens of kilometers. The golden Susanoo skeleton slowly dissipated and was gradually taken back into Uchiha Zan's body. After Susanoo disappeared, the body without the burden began to regenerate and recover more quickly. After taking a few breaths, Uchiha Zan felt that he had recovered. These corpses cannot be wasted, transfer souls and sacrifice. Groups of black flames burned on the corpses, burning them into ashes and flying back to Uchiha Zan's right eye. Rich chakra and vitality flowed into his body. Although he was unable to replenish the consumed pupil power and chakra, his body was completely fine. After sorting out the abnormality in his body, Uchiha Zan turned his head and looked at the Uzumaki clan not far away. Seeing his gaze, the Senju ninja and Tsunade felt nervous. Even though they knew that the person in front of them had just saved them, Tsunade and the others still couldn't tell whether the other party was an enemy or a friend. However, the head of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Ashesui, and the members of the Uzumaki clan looked at Uchiha Zan with a very gentle look. They didn't care who the other party was. To them, anyone who could help in the critical moment of extermination was the best friend. This benefactor of the Uchiha clan, what do you need? Seeing Uchiha Zan coming, Uzumaki Ashesui spoke first in silence. Uchiha Zan glanced at Tsunade and the wary Senju ninja, and said calmly, I only speak for myself. If I have any needs, I do have them. When the hoarse voice of the changed voice channel said this, the atmosphere was a little tense for a while. Uzumaki Lushui pressed his hand, showed a kind smile and asked, I don't know what you want, benefactor. Perhaps because of his age, he judged that Uchiha-san in front of him had no ill intentions based on a brief contact. He took the initiative to speak and let Uchiha-san express his needs. Uchiha-san did not beat around the bush and said directly, "I want your clan's ninjutsu." This proposal was made by Uchiha-san on the spur of the moment. It happened that he couldn't go back empty-handed. Hearing Uchiha-san's request, Uzumaki Lushui's expression was indescribable. It's not that this request is too much. For the current Uzumaki clan, it is not even a price. It's just that there is a very embarrassing problem at present. Due to the hasty escape, the sealing techniques they brought are very precious and exclusive to their Uzumaki clan. Even if he taught it to other ninjas, they would not be able to learn or use it. My benefactor, the ninjutsu scrolls we have now only have the secrets of our Uzumaki clan. Outsiders are not so easy to learn. Uzumaki Lushui thought about it and spoke more tactfully. It's not that he didn't want to give it, but he just wanted to remind him. Uchiha-san didn't care and said casually, "It's okay, just let me take a look." Okay then. Uzumaki Lushui didn't dare to refuse and immediately ordered his clan members to bring the ninjutsu scrolls. A timid red-haired girl then walked out of the team and came to Uchiha-san with several ninjutsu scrolls. Looking at her fiery red shawl hair and round cute face, Uchiha-san pinched her round face while taking the ninjutsu scroll. "So cute, what's your name?" This kind tone eased the girl's fear. She mustered up the courage to look directly at Uchiha-san, who was much taller than her, and whispered, Kushina, my name is Uzumaki Kushina. My benefactor, this is my granddaughter. She is still young and not very sensible. Please don't mind." Uzumaki Rusui was also trying to smooth things over, trying to prevent Uzumaki Kushina from angering Uchiha-san in front of him. Now their lives are in his hands. Kushina, a nice name. Uchiha-san, who already felt that the girl looked familiar, showed an expression of sudden enlightenment. After smiling and nodding, he opened the ninjutsu scroll and glanced at it. Adamantine sealing chains, 4 symbols seal, Kagura heart eye, contract seal, Shiki seal. Uchiha-san only took a look at each ninjutsu scroll and then handed it back to Uzumaki Kushina. "This is your reward. Take the scroll back." Uchiha-san took out a candy from his pocket like a magician and put it in Uzumaki Kushina's hand. After doing all this, he glanced at Tsunade, smiled and left the place. Tsunade looked at each other and felt a little puzzled. She always felt that the mysterious man who left seemed to be laughing at her current miserable appearance. This inexplicable and annoying feeling was another guy who brought her this emotion after Uchiha-san. "I really want to tear off that mask." After muttering in her heart, Tsunade looked at Uzumaki Kushina who was standing there stupidly and looking down at the candy in his hand. Uzumaki Kushina didn't expect that she would get a reward. She carefully peeled off the candy coating and put it in her mouth. In the negative emotions of the crisis of genocide, this sweetness mixed with the joy of escaping death filled her heart. P.S. The picture shows Uzumaki Kushina when she was a child. "Tsunade, we Uzumakis will not follow you back to Konaha. We are going to go to Taki no Kuni and live in seclusion there. If you come here one day, we will meet again." Uzumaki Ashasui gave Tsunade an iron token, which contained his chakra. As long as Tsunade took this to Taki no Kuni, the hidden Uzumakis would sense it and come out to see her. After that, they were ready to part, but before leaving, Uzumaki Ashasui handed Uzumaki Kushina to Tsunade. "I know you came here this time with Mito's instructions to find a nine-tails Jinchuriki. My granddaughter Kushina is very talented, let her follow you." Although she was reluctant, Uzumaki Ashasui still made a decision. Letting her granddaughter follow Tsunade back to Konaha was undoubtedly the best choice for her. The old, weak, sick and disabled who survived them all the way to Taki country, who knows how many hardships they will encounter along the way. If they are chased by other ninja villages again, it will be difficult for them to protect Uzumaki Kushina's safety. Just fleeing all the way just now, Uzumaki Kushina is already the only child who survived. Grandpa, Kushina, who also knew that Grandpa was doing good for her, burst into tears. But knowing that she was dragging them down by following them, Kushina finally suppressed the sadness in her heart and said goodbye to them. Tsunade was also helpless, and at the same time, he resented Sarutobi Hiruzen even more. If he could come earlier, it would never become the current situation. From Uzumaki Ashimazu's mouth, Tsunade clearly knew that the Uzumaki clan had a chance to escape unscathed before, relying on the powerful barrier and sealing technique. But they waited for a long time without rescue, and were forced into a desperate situation by the cutoff of assistance. Now they don't trust Konaha, and Tsunade can't say anything to defend Konaha. She kept thinking in her heart, why did Konaha village, founded by her grandfather Senju Hashirama, become like this? The cruel reality quickly dragged her thoughts back, and they had to hurry back as soon as possible. Once the ninjas behind chased them, they would have no way to go. And Uchiha Zan, who left at this moment, did not leave the land of whirlpools. The shadow clone he released before brought him some news. In the forest a few kilometers away from here, a group of fleeing Uzumaki people were being killed. If he didn't see it, he wouldn't care, but if he saw it, he would naturally go to rescue it. Just now, it was considered a favor from the Uzumaki clan. The secret techniques he learned made him gain a lot. It was not difficult for him to help them get 2 more fire seeds. When he arrived at the destination, Uchiha Zan saw a petite figure running wildly on the forest road from a distance. Behind her, several rock shinobi ninjas were chasing her. Compared with the rock shinobi Chunin, the little girl running in front seemed so weak. Even though she ran for her life, she was caught up by the rock shinobi Chunin behind her in just a dozen seconds. Exhausted, she could only sit on the grass in fear, curled up and begged for mercy. No, don't kill me, please, don't kill me. Unfortunately, her begging for mercy did not make the rock shinobi Chunin show mercy. The 2 rock shinobi Chunin behind her were still impatiently saying, Shangwei, hurry up, we were stopped by the shadow clone just now, and we have wasted a lot of time. We have to report back quickly. I know, I'm dealing with it now. They talked one word at a time, paying no attention to the little girl in front of them. If it weren't for Uchiha Zan's shadow clone who temporarily stopped their steps, this little girl from the Uzumaki clan would have no way to get here. During the conversation, they took out the kunai as if they were going to kill a chicken, ready to end the little girl's life. Ah! When the girl screamed in fear, the kunai that was piercing her forehead stopped in midair. The rock shinobi who made the move subconsciously exerted force, but the kunai seemed to be blocked by something and could not move down half an inch. What's going on? The rock shinobi let go of his hand in confusion, and saw that the kunai was floating in the air. The next moment, the kunai suddenly turned around and pierced straight into his forehead. The 2 rock shinobi behind him saw this scene, and just as they were about to be alert to their surroundings, they found that they were covered with a thick layer of sand iron. Magnet-style sand iron binding explosion. A cold low shout came from behind, and Uchiha Zan held the sand iron with one hand and pulled them into the air. At the same time, the detonating talisman wrapped in the sand iron also emitted a bright light. Boom! The detonating talisman exploded, killing the 2 rock shinobi bound by the sand iron on the spot. Black flames burned on their bodies, and then transformed into chakra and vitality and were absorbed by Uchiha Zan. He immediately leaned down and looked at the girl who was holding her head with both hands and trembling all over. You are safe now. Uchiha Zan spoke as gently as possible, and his palms emitted a faint green light, using healing jutsu to heal his injuries. The girl who heard the voice and felt the warmth slowly raised her head, revealing her round face. The short red hair stained with dust just covered her ears, and the black pupils flashed with tears. She was like a frightened little animal, whispering, "Are you here to save me?" "Yes, I'm here to save you." Seeing her like this, Uchiha Zan simply took off his mask and released the transformation technique to return to his original form. Looking at this handsome boy who was 2 years older than her, the little Lolita's guard was immediately lowered. She threw herself into Uchiha Zan's arms and hugged her, tightly. Uchiha Zan also returned the warm embrace, trying to comfort the girl who had just escaped death. She was probably only 8 or 9 years old, and her childish and cute appearance made people want to protect her. After a period of venting emotions and calming down, Uchiha Zan carried the girl to a safe place and took out some dry food for her to eat. When the Uzumaki tribe was cut off from aid by the outside world, the water and food supply were also cut off. The girl, who had been hungry for a long time, smelled the food and stuffed it into her mouth regardless of whether the dry food tasted good or not. But after stuffing some, she noticed Uchiha-san smiling beside her, and immediately lowered her head with a blushing face. Like a hamster, the girl tried to chew the food in her mouth, trying to swallow it quickly to relieve her embarrassing situation. I know you are hungry, don't think too much, drink some water and eat slowly. Uchiha-san took out the kettle and handed it to the girl, and at the same time opened his mouth to comfort her. After the girl took it, she took a few sips and swallowed the dry food in her mouth. As if she felt that her behavior was too embarrassing, she lowered her eyes shyly, not daring to look directly at the person in front of her. Uchiha-san lit a bonfire and looked at the silent girl beside him. In order to open the topic, he took the initiative to say, "My name is Uchiha-san, I came from Konaha, tell me your name." Hearing Uchiha-san's active question, the flattered girl immediately nervously Kaido, "Kanako, Uzumaki Kanako, I am from." Uzumaki Kanako was about to say that she escaped from the village, but her eyes suddenly turned red when she mentioned this. Uchiha-san reached out and patted Kanako's back gently, soothing her sad and fearful mood. "So where do you want to go next?" No, I don't know where to go." Kanako showed a blank expression and shook her little head. After that, she couldn't help but put her eyes on Uchiha-san beside her. She wanted to follow the boy who was a little older than herself. In addition to having no other way to go, the longing and admiration hidden deep in her heart also made her want to follow Uchiha-san instinctively. As if she was afraid that Uchiha-san would reject her, Kanako immediately said anxiously, "Mr. Uchiha, I am very useful. My mother told me that my physique is very special. Others can restore chakra and physical strength by biting my skin or sucking my blood. So, please let me follow you." Kanako's tone was very anxious, and she even said the secret that her mother asked her not to spread. Weak and helpless, she was like a dying little beast, eager to be saved by the person in front of her. She was eager to show her value, and only prayed that Uchiha-san who saved her would not abandon her. After listening to Uzumaki Kanako's description, Uchiha-san raised his eyebrows slightly, and a hint of surprise was revealed in his eyes. This ability characteristic. Why does it seem to be Uzumaki Karen's? Considering that Uzumaki Karen has not been born yet, this person is probably Uzumaki Karen's mother. Realizing this problem, Uchiha-san also gave up the idea of returning her to the Uzumaki clan. He stretched out his hand to cover Uzumaki Kanako's red hair, gently rubbed it and smiled, "Since Kanako is willing to follow me, then follow me." Kanako, who got the response she had dreamed of, couldn't hold back the joy in her heart. Her little face was red like an attractive red apple. At this time, she seemed to have made a decision, and stretched out her delicate and white little hand and placed it in front of Uchiha-san. "Then Uchiha-sama, then bite me to restore chakra." She bit her pink lips lightly, adapting to the pain that was coming in advance. Uchiha-san rolled up her sleeves, knocked on her little head, and scolded. "What am I biting now, and you don't show this ability so easily, and don't treat yourself as a tool too much." If Kanako suddenly showed her little hand in front of Makoto and the others and asked them to bite it. If there was no explanation in advance, Uchiha-san felt that there was nothing wrong with him, but Kanako might be targeted by Makoto. Covering her slightly painful forehead, Uzumaki Kanako smiled sweetly. She was just eager to show her value, but she didn't expect Uchiha-san to react like this. But she was even more grateful in her heart, because she could hear that Uchiha-san didn't treat her as a simple tool. Being treated so gently, and being saved by such a great man like Uchiha-san. In Kanako's heart, Uchiha-san's image and status are comparable to that of a god. The two of them slept in each other's arms all night, and Kanako calmed down her panic. The next morning, Uchiha-san took her to collect and bury the bodies of her dead companions. After doing all this, Uchiha-san did not continue to look for other members of the Uzumaki clan. He had done his best and had to return to the village as soon as possible. Uchiha-san took Uzumaki Kanako to an uninhabited lake and took a good bath. After washing away the dust and stains on her body, Kanako seemed to have completed her transformation as an ugly duckling. Her petite body was like a flower in bud, delicate and lovely. Her bright red hair was as soft as silk, wet and close to her delicate and fair skin. Drops of water passed over her skin, and people's eyes could not help but follow them. Her clear and bright eyes and tender and cute face exuded an innocent charm. Sensing Uchiha Zan's burning gaze, Uzumaki Kanako hugged her body shyly when she stood up from the lake. Her eyes flashed with shyness, and she whispered in a soft voice, "Uchiha-sama, can you give me the clothes?" "Ah, come on, wear this." Uchiha Zan suddenly came back to his senses and took out the clothes he brought with him. This was prepared for Uchiha Makoto, and it was much looser on Uzumaki Kanako. Kanako, who changed into new clothes, was like a flower of good energy blooming. She bit her lips shyly, and her small hands gently kneaded the corners of her clothes, not daring to look directly at Uchiha Zan in front of her. "Okay, let's go, we have to hurry back. So Kanako, you have to be a little prepared for the bumps that may happen later." Uchiha Zan spoke seriously, causing 2 question marks to appear on Kanako's head. Before she could respond, Uchiha Zan stretched out his hands. One hand went around her back, passed through her left armpit and placed it on her chest, and the other hand lifted her bamboo shoot-like calf and jumped up and ran forward. Amid Kanako's screams, she was suddenly hugged by Uchiha Zan like a princess and began the journey to Konaha. Holding Kanako in his arms, Uchiha Zan could feel her lowly fragrance and delicate body more. Kanako Uzumaki also subconsciously clung to Uchiha Zan, her legs swaying and not used to the current posture. She was like a smart little deer. The more she struggled, the more people wanted to hold her tightly. Fortunately, she stopped moving soon afterwards, her little hand covering her cheek, but she carefully peeked at Uchiha Zan, who was on the road. Looking at his handsome profile, Kanako smiled shyly, not knowing why she was so happy. Uchiha Zan was extremely fast along the way, and only paused for a short rest in the middle. With his fine chakra control and the insight of the Mangekyo Sharingan, Uchiha Zan also roughly mastered the secret technique of the Uzumaki clan, the Kagura Hard Eye. Rather than being a ninjutsu, the Kagura Hard Eye is the innate ability of the Uzumaki clan. The training method recorded in it is more of a way to teach the Uzumaki clan how to open this talent. If the Uzumaki clan members have high enough talent and pure enough blood, they can even open it without training. The Uzumaki sage body he obtained should have a very high blood purity, so he not only learned it quickly but also got started immediately. It was only the first time he used the Kagura Hard Eye that he could sense all movements within a radius of 10 kilometers. If it was the chakra he had specially recorded, he could also sense the detailed location and movement, the number of opponents and their characteristics, and even the speed of movement. This allowed Uchiha Zan to easily avoid the chasing ninjas and the beasts blocking the road based on the perception information he obtained. Uchiha Zan, who traveled day and night, arrived in Konaha not long after Tsunade and his friends returned to the village. Relying on his status as a member of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Zan easily brought Uzumaki Kanako into the village. He took Kanako to the Hokage's office as soon as possible. At this time, the 3rd generation was kindly receiving Tsunade and Uzumaki Kushina. "Old man, hurry up and register Kushina, I have to go back and rest." Tsunade didn't give the 3rd generation a good look this time. Knowing the character and actions of her master, she could be said to hate the old man in front of her. If it weren't for the relationship between master and apprentice, Tsunade wouldn't want to say a word to him. The 3rd generation, who noticed Tsunade's abnormality, didn't dare to refute or explain anything. He also knew the character of his apprentice. He let her calm down and then, fool her. The 3rd generation did not believe that they could not fool her with their eloquence. The Second Ninja War was on the verge of breaking out. Tsunade had to be appeased at this critical moment. If she gave up, the Senju ninjas would probably go against him, the Hokage. A lean camel is bigger than a horse. Even though the Senju clan was already dead in name only, the 3rd generation was still afraid of its heritage. The 3rd generation turned to look at the timid Uzumaki Kushina and smiled kindly. "You must be Kushina. I am the 3rd generation grandfather. I will arrange a residence permit and accommodation for you now." When he was still trying to get closer to Kushina, Tsunade interrupted him. "I'm going to take Kushina to the Senju tribe's base. Grandma will teach her. You don't need to worry about this," Tsunade said coldly, and then pulled Kushina away without looking back. Tsunade, who knew the third generation's ability to bewitch, didn't want Kushina to have too much contact with him. Looking at Tsunade and Kushina who were leaving, the third generation's face immediately darkened. Tsunade's anger won't go away for a while, and this time there are so many Senju ninjas coming back. How does Danzo do things? He can't even handle such a small matter. The third generation smoked his pipe and cursed Danzo for being useless. He just took 2 puffs of the cigarette to relieve his depression, and the door that had just been closed opened with a bang. Cough, cough, cough. The third generation choked and almost fell off the chair. He quickly looked up and looked forward, thinking that Tsunade had returned. But the image of Uchiha Zan with Uzumaki Kanako instantly appeared in his vision. Hey, third generation old man. Uchiha Zan greeted the third generation enthusiastically. Uchiha Zan, is this a member of the Uzumaki clan? The third generation looked at the returning Uchiha Zan in surprise, and then looked at Uzumaki Kanako who was with him. The iconic red hair made it easy to recognize that she was from the Uzumaki clan. Uchiha Zan said with the words he had prepared long ago, "Isn't there a Uzumaki rescue mission? Unfortunately, I couldn't catch up with teacher Tsunade's team. When I arrived, the Whirlpool country had already fallen. Later, I accidentally found Kanako on the edge of the battlefield, so I brought her back. I think I have completed the mission. Third generation old man, just tell me how much money you can give me." Uchiha Zan's words are well founded. Before, the third generation suspected that Uchiha Zan also accepted this mission to go to the land of whirlpools. Now the third generation seriously suspects that Uchiha Zan just wants to take the mission and cheat money. You just wandered around the border for a while, and you accidentally saved a Uzumaki. I haven't settled accounts with you for taking advantage of the privileges of the Uchiha clan and accepting S-level missions. Unfortunately, the third generation did not mention the topic of accepting missions above the level in the end. He wanted to leave a good impression on Uchiha Zan, after all, he was Uchiha Zan's master. The third generation is still very generous to people on their side. Another problem is that the third generation does not want to embarrass the Uchiha clan now. As the war gradually ignites, the status of the Uchiha clan in Konaha is also rising. The reason is that Konaha needs ninjas from the Uchiha clan to go to the battlefield. At this critical moment, the third generation gave face to the Uchiha clan and tried to please them so that they would not have any rift with Konaha. When Uchiha Zan proposed to let Uzumaki Kanako follow him, the third generation glanced meaningfully at Kanako, who was like a little follower. How could he not see that this Uzumaki Kanako must like Uchiha Zan? You kid, you even brought back a young wife. The speechless third generation immediately approved Uchiha Zan's idea. Seeing that Uzumaki Kanako admired Uchiha Zan, the third generation, who could just save some money for settling in, would be happy to do it. After giving Uchiha Zan a bounty and recording his identity, the third generation asked Uchiha Zan to leave with Kanako. Not long after Uchiha Zan came downstairs, he was waiting for Tsunade at the door of the Hokage building and stopped him. You went to Whirlpool country, why didn't I see you? Tsunade wanted to grab Uchiha Zan's ears and teach him a lesson not to do such dangerous things. But thinking of Uchiha Zan's temper, Tsunade didn't dare to reach out his hand. His apprentice had been disobedient many times, and he acted as if nothing had happened after teasing his master before. If he really fought with Uchiha Zan, who knew what this guy would do to him? Facing Tsunade's kind scolding, Uchiha Zan smiled back. After all, Tsunade, you are also my teacher, right? Going on a mission alone without telling me is not in line with your identity as a teacher. His sincere response and serious expression made Tsunade speechless for a moment and didn't know how to respond. Tsunade could see and hear that Uchiha Zan really cared about her. And how many people in the entire Konaha village could care about her? Tsunade was touched, and her tone softened involuntarily. She immediately changed the subject and asked, "Where did you go on the battlefield? Could it be that you were the one who caused the internal conflict among the ninjas?" Tsunade quickly thought of the information about the internal conflict among the ninja coalition. She was sure that she didn't cause it, because her men had exhausted their energy just to resist the opponent's attack. There was no way to spare any manpower to go inside the opponent to cause damage. Combined with what Uchiha-san said, Tsunade guessed that it must be his doing. Uchiha-san naturally did not deny it, and at the same time, he inadvertently made a shushing expression to Uzumaki Kushina behind Tsunade. Uzumaki Kushina noticed this action, and his big eyes were staring straight at Uchiha-san. As the granddaughter of the head of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Kushina has mastered the Kagura Heart Eye since she was a child. She had sensed and recorded Uchiha-san's chakra fluctuations before. She recognized Uchiha-san the moment he appeared. He was the Uchiha who saved them. After experiencing the destruction of the Whirlpool country and being hunted down, Kushina's personality has become much more mature. Seeing the action made by Uchiha-san, she immediately stopped wanting to recognize him. She immediately put her eyes on Kanako, and a bright smile appeared on her face for the first time in a long time. "Kanako, I didn't expect to see you here. Kushina, it's you." They shouted each other's names at once, and then hugged and cried. Uzumaki Kanako and Uzumaki Kushina were good friends who knew each other. And their Uzumaki clan bloodline is also the purest and noblest. Seeing that they knew each other, Tsunade and Uchiha-san tacitly did not disturb them. The four of them walked and talked, preparing to find a restaurant to have a good meal first. Not long after they left, Danzo came to the Hokage building with a gloomy face. "Danzo, you disappoint me. The operation over there failed, right?" As soon as he entered the Hokage office, the third generation asked with a dark face. Danzo had no words to say, so he could only nod and explain. "It did fail, but it was not due to my plan, but an unexpected change. The route I sent encountered an attack from an unknown force. A total of 45 people went, and only 5 returned. They brought back news that it was because there was an Uchiha ninja who could use Amaterasu that obstructed their actions." Hearing what Danzo said, the third generation frowned immediately. "Are you sure it was an Uchiha ninja?" The figure of Uchiha-san flashed through the mind of the third generation, but it was quickly erased. "A kid who just opened the Two-Tomo Sharingan and graduated from the ninja school not long ago. He has nothing to do with the eye technique Amaterasu." They Konaha also collected information about the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha who can use the eye technique Amaterasu must be Mangekyo Sharingan. Facing the third generation's repeated questioning, Danzo hesitated. Based on the information of the route, it is impossible to determine whether it is Amaterasu. A route member was mixed in the team and was hit by black flames, but the black flames eventually extinguished. "I can only judge that it is a black flame fire style similar to Amaterasu." Quote, "In this case, I'm afraid it's not a Uchiha, it's more like someone framed it." On the Uchiha clan side, the Anbu sent by the third generation can be said to be constantly monitoring. Besides, the Uchiha clan and the Uzumaki clan are not related at all, so it is impossible for them to send a powerful ninja like Mangekyo Sharingan. The shrewd third generation quickly thought of it. "I am afraid someone is deliberately pushing the situation onto the Uchiha clan. Now that the borders of various countries have been fought, it is possible that other countries have framed them and want to use this as an excuse to besiege Konaha." Danzo also agreed with the third generation's idea. His route organization is almost monitoring the important personnel of the Uchiha clan 24 hours a day. It is impossible for the other party to send people to the Whirlpool country, which is completely unreasonable. There is good news at present. When other ninja villages attacked the Whirlpool country, their ninjas suffered heavy losses. Many Jonin and Chunin died there, and their bodies turned into ashes. It is estimated that at least 50 Chunin and 10 Jonin died there. Quote, "The third generation's eyes lit up when they heard this. Good. This is great news. The standard for measuring the strength of a ninja village is the number of Jonin and Chunin in the village. Even Konaha, which has the strongest overall strength now, has no more than 300 Jonin. The death of more than 10 Jonin is a serious injury to Konaha. For other weaker ninja villages, it is definitely a blood loss. Don't investigate the affairs of the Whirlpool country for the time being, and the routes should also focus on the battlefield. Rain Shinobi Village has recently produced a character named Hanzo. Danzo, you should investigate the other party carefully. Now our friction with Tsunade is the most serious, you should know what to do, right?" Quote, "The third generation showed the spirit of a ninja hero, and discussed the matters of this ninja war with Danzo in a light voice. The war is imminent, and many trivial matters can no longer be investigated. At present, all energy should be put into this upcoming ninja war. The desire of Rain Shinobi Village to attack is getting stronger and stronger. They seem to have grasped that because of the First Shinobi World War, the various ninja villages are still recuperating. According to the information brought back by Anbu, the Rain Shinobi village led by Hanzo has the intention to attack the Iron Kingdom. While preparations for the war were being carried out intensively here, Uchiha Zan and Tsunade parted ways and each took people back to their family's residence. Uzumaki Kanako, who followed Uchiha Zan, timidly observed the surrounding environment. Now Uchiha Zan is her only support, and all she can do is follow his footsteps closely. After returning to the residence, Uchiha Zan first took Uzumaki Kanako came to the mansion where he lived. Kanako, from now on this is also your home, you should get familiar with it first. I'm going to do something in the Elder Hall and will be back soon. Uchiha Zan touched Kanako's head and soothed her frightened heart. Kanako nodded obediently, watched Uchiha Zan leave, and then observed the whole house. Master Zan's kitchen, and bedroom, and the clothes he just changed. Looking at the pants and tops placed casually, Kanako picked them up, sniffed the smell on them, and fell headfirst on the soft big bed. The originally panicked heart was filled with a sense of security, which was the sense of security brought to her by Uchiha Zan. And before she could enjoy it for a moment, a figure suddenly appeared at the door of the bedroom. Kanako, who sensed the appearance of someone, immediately looked up and saw a beautiful girl staring at her. The scarlet Sharingan showed her identity as a member of the Uchiha clan. Who are you? Why are you in Schwanjin's house? Quote, Uchiha Makoto stared at Kanako in front of her, and even more at the clothes of Uchiha Zan in her hand. This room was tidied by her every day after Uchiha Zan left. The presence of Uchiha Zan's clothes means that he has returned. But the strange little loli in front of her made Makoto full of vigilance. Kanako was frightened by Uchiha Makoto's expression and tone, and curled up cautiously. I am the Uzumaki clan who came back with Master Zan. Ah, Uzumaki clan. What are you doing with Schwanjin's clothes? Quote. Uchiha Makoto's cold arrogance gradually subsided. But her eyes were still fixed on the clothes in Kanako's hand. Hearing Uchiha Makoto's question, Kanako's face flushed immediately, and she said with a dodging look, I'm going to wash it, who are you? Kanako seemed to be more confident when she thought of Uchiha Zan. Uchiha Makoto snorted and said proudly, I am Schwanjin's future wife Uchiha Makoto. If Schwanjin's clothes need to be washed, I should be the one to wash them. After that, Uchiha Makoto went up and took away Uchiha Zan's clothes. Hearing Makoto say this, Uzumaki Kanako's momentum instantly withered. She didn't hear from Uchiha Zan that he had a fiancé. But seeing Uchiha Makoto's confident appearance in front of her, Kanako couldn't help but believe it a little. And seeing Kanako's timid appearance, Uchiha Makoto suddenly felt that her tone seemed too heavy. Her heart softened, and she took Uchiha Zan's clothes in her hands and asked about Kanako. In the face of Uchiha Makoto's question, Kanako did not hide anything, but slowly told everything. While the two of them were chatting, Uchiha Zan saw the high-spirited Uchiha Shinji. Since Uchiha Makoto grew up to 3 Tomo Sharingan, his mood has been so good. Before the Uchiha clan opened their eyes, they looked at their talent in ninjutsu. But after opening their eyes, this is not a criterion at all. No matter how talented they are in ninjutsu, the treatment after opening their eyes must be the highest. The fundamental reason is that the more Sharingan Magatama is opened, the higher their own talent will be. Uchiha Makoto, who opened 3 Magatama, was just an ordinary genin at first. And in less than a month, relying on 3 Tomo Sharingan, her strength has become Chunin. Seeing the returning Uchiha Zan, Uchiha Shinji was also in a very good mood. Xiao Zan, you are back safely. Next time you take on a mission beyond your level or leave the village on your own initiative, you should notify us in advance. Going to such a dangerous place like Whirlpool country, we can also arrange a few Uchiha people to protect you. Uchiha Shinji used a slightly stern tone and said the most doting words. Uchiha Zan shook his head and smiled softly. Grandpa Shinji, I know how to deal with these things, and this time I went to Whirlpool country without gain. While speaking, Uchiha Zan's eyes showed 3 Tomo Sharingan, and he took the initiative to expose some of his strength. Seeing his 3 Tomo Sharingan, Uchiha Shinji's eyes widened. He immediately looked around and asked 2 confidants to close the door. When they were the only 2 left in the hall, Uchiha Shinji asked quietly, "Xiao Zan, when did you open the 3 Tomo Sharingan?" "I opened it by accident when I participated in the Battle of Whirlpool Country." Uchiha Zan found a good reason and answered fluently. Uchiha Shinji was full of emotion and felt that he had lived a dog's life. When he was Uchiha Zan's age, he only opened 1 Magatama Sharingan. This also shows that Uchiha Zan's talent in Sharingan is far better than theirs. It can be said that Uchiha Zan has a high probability of opening the rare Mangekyo Sharingan in the clan in the future. Xiao Zan, don't expose this matter. At least keep it secret for a few years. Now that Konaha village has entered a state of war, you will be easily targeted. Uchiha Zan could understand Uchiha Shinji's concerns. He showed the 3 Tomo Sharingan this time, in fact, mainly to show his own talent. At the same time, it was also to make Uchiha Shinji more accommodating to himself and give him more power in the Uchiha clan. "Grandpa Shinji, I know my situation and I have confidence in myself. This time, I came here to say that I brought back a girl from the Uzumaki clan from the land of whirlpools. Even if she can't become a member of the Uchiha clan, I hope she can follow me to enter and leave the Uchiha's residence freely." Uchiha Zan mentioned Uzumaki Kanako and deliberately concealed the secrets of the Uzumaki clan. After all, whether it is Kagura Heart's Eye or adamantine sealing chains, it is basically impossible for others except the Uzumaki clan to learn it. This idea of accommodating an outsider really made Uchiha Shinji a little embarrassed. But thinking that this was proposed by Uchiha Zan, Elder Shinji hesitated for a while and nodded in agreement. It is definitely not possible to give the Uzumaki girl the status of a member of the Uchiha clan, unless she marries you. I can approve a temporary entry and exit status. Although the Uchiha clan basically intermarries, it is not uncommon for people to marry outside the clan. Therefore, the Uchiha clan has specially created such a temporary member status to deal with those people. For Uchiha members, those temporary members are outsiders after all, and are not welcomed by people in the clan. And Uchiha Zan did not want Kanako to have a good relationship with the Uchiha people. Those arrogant and extreme guys will also become bad-tempered if they have a relationship with them. There are very few Uchiha members with good personalities like Uchiha Shinji and Uchiha Makoto. After dealing with Uzumaki Kanako's affairs, Uchiha Zan asked Elder Shinji for some secret medicines needed to temper the body and more advanced fire-style ninjutsu. To truly strengthen the body, not only high-intensity exercise is needed, but also nutrition and secret medicine are needed. Otherwise, excessive exercise will only leave hidden injuries to the body. Therefore, for ordinary civilian ninjas, if you are not talented in ninjutsu, you can basically be sentenced to death. As for Uchiha Zan's request, Uchiha Shinji naturally did not refuse. He was also afraid that Uchiha Zan's request was not enough, so he specially allocated a part of the living expenses and specially took out the Chakra Samurai sword forged by the Uchiha clan. This Chakra Samurai sword forged by a special alloy is much stronger than that of the outside world. The conductivity of chakra is also unique, several times better than that sold in ordinary blacksmith shops. Uchiha Zan did not reject the kindness of Elder Shinji, and he also had the confidence to live up to his investment in himself. I have to make plans for the future. Before I have to go to war, I have to have cage-level strength as much as possible. I have to learn all the sealing techniques given by the Uzumaki clan and the fire-style ninjutsu given by Elder Shinji. I have to learn the essence of the 6 styles and use the characteristics of lightning-style chakra mode that can strengthen the body to improve the physical strength. On the way home, Uchiha Zan roughly planned what he would do next. When he noticed the extra shoes at the door, Uchiha Zan couldn't help but feel a little panic. Could Makoto come here? I hope she doesn't quarrel with Kanako. The nervous Uchiha Zan slowly opened the door, and then the scene of Uchiha Makoto and Kanako chatting happily on the sofa in the living room came into view. Zan-jun, Master Zan. Seeing Uchiha Zan, Uchiha Makoto and Uzumaki Kanako, who were chatting, shouted at the first time. Uchiha Zan's expression was a little awkward, and it seemed that the two of them were on good terms. After understanding each other, Uchiha Zan breathed a sigh of relief. After Uchiha Makoto learned about Kanako's experience, his sympathy was overflowing. The original hostility towards the vixen disappeared instantly, replaced by care and love. After Uchiha Zan came back, the two of them left Uchiha Zan in the living room to watch TV for a while, and went to the kitchen to cook dinner while chatting with each other. There are not many programs in Konaha village, and the TV is now broadcasting news about war. This caused Uchiha Zan's mind to be on the two women in the kitchen. After overhearing that they were talking normally and there was no open or secret struggle, Uchiha Zan breathed a sigh of relief. Although he has the idea of taking over the big and small, he doesn't dare to directly propose this idea at present. The Uchiha clan is prone to extreme personalities. Uchiha Makoto even drove directly to 3 Tomo Sharingan before. Uchiha Zan was afraid that she would become a yandere secretly. If he showed that intention to Kanako, Uchiha Makoto would attack her. As for whether Uchiha Makoto would attack him, Uchiha Zan didn't worry much about it. The main thing is that he has poor combat power and is not afraid at all. If he really fights, he can turn around and tie Makoto up and make a flannel ball. But Kanako doesn't have his own strength. If she is targeted by Makoto, it will be really dangerous. With such concerns, 2 years have passed in a flash. During these 2 years, Uchiha Zan basically visited the Senju clan's residence every day to cultivate feelings with Kushina. Kushina also graduated from the Ninja Academy and became Tsunade's apprentice. Now the Second Ninja World War has officially begun. Even though the Uchiha clan is desperately dragging it out, under the influence of the Uchiha Toyama faction and the request of Konaha village, Uchiha Zan has also been included in the ranks of participating in the war. Kushina and Kanako can be said to be exceptions. As a candidate for Nine Tails Jinchuriki, Kushina will not be sent to protect her safety. Kanako is a refugee of the Uzumaki clan and has no obligation to go to the battlefield. However, under the training of Uchiha Zan, in addition to being a close-fitting maid, her strength has also improved by leaps and bounds. The Uzumaki clan itself has a terrifying amount of chakra, and she is very good at sealing techniques and Kagura's mind. In terms of strength alone, she can be regarded as a special Jonin. It means that in terms of chakra amount and sealing technique strength, she can be compared with Jonin. In other aspects, Uzumaki Kanako's strength is average. Uchiha Zan also tried to teach her taijutsu. Makoto and Tsunade learned all 6 styles, but Kanako only learned finger pistol and moonwalk. Uchiha Zan also learned the secret of the 6 styles, life return, which allows him to freely control his body, hair, and internal organs. As long as he puts his consciousness into it, he can freely control any place. Even if he only uses taijutsu, he can smash a Jonin. In the past 2 years, Uchiha Zan has also used the pupil technique of his left eye to materialize new ninjutsu. He used adamantine sealing chains as a carrier and used the unknown portrayal for the first time. The result is that adamantine sealing chains itself has not changed, but it can be embodied on Susanoo and become a weapon. And his other unknown portrayal was placed on Kagura Hard Eye. The advanced Kagura Hard Eye Hard Net is much stronger than before. It is not only a simple perception auxiliary technique to perceive the movements nearby in advance. It can also be used in battle to perceive attacks, predict the opponent's next move, and perceive the strength of creatures. Kagura Hard Eye Hard Net does not even need to consume chakra, but can be used as a permanent ability. The only consumption is that mental power needs to be concentrated, and physical strength will also consume more. After realizing that this reincarnation is completely unpredictable, Uchiha Zan did not recklessly construct all the ninjutsu he knew. Even if he has the Uzumaki sage body, he can't bear such a waste of pupil power. And Uchiha Zan did not perform too many bloodline limit reincarnation. He also created advanced ninjutsu such as Chidori and Rasengan, based on his own memories. On the one hand, he may not be able to use them for a while because he has too many but not refined ones. On the other hand, it is a great burden on the consumption of pupil power and body functions. Even if it is possible to recover some pupil power by absorbing the vitality and chakra of the ninja, it will cost too many lives. The situation like the Battle of Whirlpool Country is unlikely to occur unless it is the Second Ninja World War. Uchiha Zan does not want to consume his pupil power too much and become half-blind. Therefore, in the past 2 years, Uchiha Zan made the final reincarnation and portrait, which is to materialize wood style. However, this wood style is indeed different from the devastating wood style of the first generation in his impression. The strength of his wood style technique cannot be said to be too weak, but it can only be said to be average. It is about the same level as the wood style used by the future Orochimaru's experimental product, Yamato. It is more than enough to deal with Jonin, but it is not enough to deal with Cage level of the same level. At present, the biggest function of this wood style is probably to contain the enemy and to build a house to live in whenever he can go out. If he had known that it was this strong, he might as well use the remaining eye power to materialize other bloodline limits. Later, he focused on the training of ninjutsu and taijutsu. And his biggest gain in the past 2 years, in addition to this body that has been hammered like steel, is that his strength has officially entered the Cage level. His chakra volume is at least the level of 3/3 generation. If he is given a few more years, it will not be a problem to enter the Super Shadow. Wood style must at least wait until Yang Escape is developed, and then the power can be as powerful as Senju Hashirama. The left eye's eye power is consumed too much, and I just need a lot of lives to fill it up. Although he has the Uzumaki Sage body to support him, his left eye has no problems with vision and physical functions so far. However, it is extremely difficult to replenish the pupil power. Even if you kill hundreds of ordinary beasts, it is not as useful as absorbing a Jonin. This time, it is also an opportunity for him to follow Tsunade to the battlefield. Uchiha Zan can remember the fact that he made a lot of money in the Battle of Whirlpool Country 2 years ago. Compared with Uchiha Zan's excitement, Uzumaki Kanako is in a very low mood. Uchiha Makoto can at least go with him, but she can't go to the battlefield. Uzumaki Kanako feels very uncomfortable when she thinks of the days without Uchiha Zan. The night before Uchiha Zan left, when he was lying in the bathtub to relax, Kanako, wearing a thin bath towel, stepped into the bathroom. Kanako's appearance made Uchiha Zan sit up immediately. Although the relationship between him and Kanako has been cultivated for the past 2 years. But the number of times they took a bath together was very few. The main reason was that Uchiha Makoto basically lived in his house, and Uchiha Zan was afraid of a fire in the backyard if he cheated in front of her. And at Kanako's age, Uchiha Zan wanted to do something to her, but he was powerless. He is currently capable. The Secret Life Return, learned from the Great Six Styles, allows him to freely control every muscle in his body. He has also been training his physique in the past 2 years. Although he is only 12 years old, his height of 1.7 meters and strong muscles are no different from that of a 17 or 18-year-old boy. Before, Tsunade dared to take him to drink, but recently Tsunade has been avoiding him. It should be because once, after the two of them drank together, he hugged Tsunade and let himself go. He didn't want to, a man and a woman drinking alone in a private room with only the two of them. When everyone got angry, I ate a piece of tofu and abalone, and you ate a boiled radish or something, and it was understandable that I could calm down by this. This is not to break the window paper. Is there a need to be so afraid of me? When Uchiha Zan was lying in the bathtub and daydreaming, Uzumaki Kanako had already come to the bathtub. The thin bath towel wrapped her delicate body, and the soft material outlined her petite figure, like a shy flower. Looking at Uzumaki Kanako so close, Uchiha Zan could smell the seductive fragrance she exuded. Uzumaki Kanako pursed her lips shyly, her eyebrows were full of affection, and she whispered, "Young master, let Kanako help you wipe your back." Because she had always called herself Master Zan before, but he was only 2 years older than Kanako. Later, after Kanako Uzumaki learned about the struggle between the two factions of the Uchiha clan and the status of Uchiha Makoto, she changed her address to "Young Master." She felt that Uchiha Zan would definitely inherit the power of Makoto's faction, and both the status and the title needed to be noble. And she also brought her identity to Uchiha Zan's servant. Uchiha Zan, who couldn't resist her, got used to her calling him that. But now she used a slightly trembling address, and the soft and lingering tone really made his bones numb. Uchiha Zan, who wanted to get up and come down, was immediately stopped by Kanako Uzumaki. Let me come in and help you rub your back and shoulders, young master, you don't need to come down. Young master, you will leave with Sister Makoto and Lord Tsunade tomorrow, please allow me to make such an offensive request. Kanako Uzumaki's voice was very soft, and her pink lips pressed against Uchiha Zan's ear. The warm breath and the unique milky fragrance on her body made Uchiha Zan nod at the same time. Whether big or small, they all agreed at this moment. Seeing Uchiha Zan sitting down obediently, Uzumaki Kanako suddenly raised a sweet smile on her face. However, the shyness on her face did not diminish, but she mustered up the courage to take a step. As if she felt too shy, she hugged the bath towel a little tighter. But as she moved, the bath towel still slipped slightly, revealing her slender shoulders and jade-like skin. There is no oppression and charm like Tsunade's majestic ultimate, but this petite and lovely picture is also heart-pounding. After entering the water, Uzumaki Kanako stuck to Uchiha Zan's back for a long time. Then she stretched out her delicate and white hands and tried to do what she could. During this process, Uzumaki Kanako said firmly, I will study harder and try to help you in the future. Actually, you've done a good job now. But if you really want to help, I'll teach you something more profound. Uchiha Zan turned around after Kanako Uzumaki pinched her shoulders. Caught off guard, Kanako suddenly felt the water temperature rise. Kanako, I need you to do me a very important favor now, are you willing to do it? No, no problem, what do I want to do? Kanako, who was concerned about something so hot, responded immediately after hearing Uchiha Zan's voice. Seeing her so innocent, Uchiha Zan felt full of guilt. But this guilt made Uchiha Zan want to stop. The bathing time was extended a lot, and later Uchiha Zan put Kanako on the bed and covered her with a quilt. Noticing the stains at the corners of her mouth, Uchiha Zan skillfully took out a tissue to wipe it off. Kanako drank a full cup of warm milk today, and seeing that she was sleeping so soundly, Uchiha Zan didn't want to disturb her anymore. Fortunately I know life return and iron body, otherwise I really can't handle it. Next time I have to teach Kanako and make her as proficient as possible. Uchiha Zan, muttering in his heart, returned to his bedroom carefully. Seeing that Makoto was not there, he was relieved. It seems that Makoto did not come to his place tonight because he had to leave tomorrow. No wonder Kanako was so bold today, it seems that she also seized the right time. To deal with this troublemaker, the process of using carrots and sticks to deal with her was indeed correct. Seeing this, Uchiha Zan simply did not sleep in his bedroom, and returned to Kanako's bedroom with ease. Getting into the warm bed, hugging Kanako, who was as cute and soft as a doll, and then fell asleep. If I don't hug someone now, I won't sleep well that night. Kanako opened her sleepy eyes slightly, and after seeing Uchiha Zan in front of her, she twisted her body and curled up in his arms. Tomorrow morning, Uchiha Makoto came to Uchiha Zan's house early. Seeing Uchiha Zan and Uzumaki Kanako sleeping in each other's arms, she frowned slightly but finally showed a kind smile. Perhaps because of the 2 years of getting along, she gradually accepted Kanako's existence. After all, Makoto had seen such a situation before. It's time to wake up, both of you. She patted the two gently and woke them up. Uzumaki Kanako woke up immediately after hearing Makoto's voice. Realizing that she was hugged by Uchiha Zan and facing Uchiha Makoto's smiling expression, she suddenly felt like she was caught cheating. Young master, wake up, Miss Makoto is here. Uzumaki Kanako also pushed Uchiha Zan hurriedly. Uchiha Zan, who didn't want to face reality very much, had to open his eyes and face reality after being quarreled by the two. Noticing that Uchiha Makoto seemed to be in a good mood, he was slightly relieved. During breakfast, Uchiha Makoto did not talk about their affairs, but delved into what happened last night when she was away. Makoto, who had done her homework yesterday, told Uchiha Zan which battlefield they were expected to go to. A year ago, when there was a lot of friction between the various ninja villages, Hanzo of the Salamander, the leader of Rain Shinobi Village, emerged as a new force and declared war on the Iron Country, Sand Shinobi, and Konaha in turn. The Rain Shinobi Village ninjas led by him took nearly half a year to capture nearly half of the territory of the Iron Country. After becoming famous in one battle, Hanzo of the Salamander launched a war against Sand Shinobi. However, his poison, which was invincible on the battlefield, was cracked by Chiyo of Tsunade. This forced Hanzo of the Salamander to retreat. In terms of overall strength, Rain Shinobi Village was inferior to Tsunade. Now, Hanzo of the Salamander has turned to attack us again. Tsunade is also harassing Konaha's ninjas on the border. As for other ninja villages, although they have their own battles, they have not yet involved Konaha. Xuanjin, the battlefield we are going to is probably in the Rain Country, and now we are in a hurry to let teacher Tsunade go. I'm afraid it's because Hanzo of the Salamander, the toxin released by Salamander, made the Konaha shinobi on the front line miserable. I guess I will be a medical ninja after I go there, and I won't face too much danger to my life. But Xuanjin, you will definitely be sent to the front line, you must be careful. Quote. Uchiha Makoto explained the current battle situation and analyzed the interests to Uchiha Zan. Now she is most worried about Uchiha Zan. Even though she knows that Uchiha Zan is very strong, she is still worried, and she doesn't need a reason to worry. Uchiha Zan, who has also collected some war data, is also clear about the battle he will face next after listening to Uchiha Makoto's explanation. He nodded to Makoto and said seriously, "Don't worry, Makoto, I won't die, you can rest assured, wait until next time I come back." Uchiha Zan glanced at the bathroom and smiled at Uchiha Makoto. Makoto, who understood instantly, blushed slightly, but nodded seriously. After a brief discussion, Uchiha Zan and Uchiha Makoto set off together after leaving Kanako to look after the house. When they arrived at the destination, they saw Tsunade wearing the Konaha shinobi uniform. This capable and heroic outfit was completely different from Tsunade's previous appearance. And the plump curves of her body were barely covered by the ninja uniform with a vest and protective gear. Uchiha Zan could see that Tsunade's size was wrong today. It's a circle smaller. Is it tied up or is there a steel plate blocking the chest? Uchiha Zan stared at Tsunade, muttering in his heart. Tsunade, who was stared at by him, instinctively turned away from her beautiful face with a guilty conscience and bit her pink sakura lips. On her fair skin, a shy blush appeared involuntarily. Uchiha Zan has changed a lot in the past 2 years. How can he be a 12-year-old child? Even though Tsunade has never seen other people's sturdy body and ridiculous size, she is sure that it is definitely larger than her peers, just like her most proud treasure. It's all because of his exaggerated growth. She asked him to drink and play a few times a while ago, and she turned into that scene unknowingly. She has never had a boyfriend since she was a child. It's not her fault that she became like that after being suppressed for a long time. This matter must not be known to others, otherwise she will definitely be arrested for child molestation. It seems that she can still feel something strange on her lips, and Tsunade's slender fingertips can't help but touch her lips. Looking at Tsunade standing there like a peach blossom, Uchiha Makoto smelled a different smell. But she didn't think much about it, but called softly, Teacher Tsunade, shouldn't we set off?" "Oh, well, let's go, the team is already at the entrance of the village." Tsunade suddenly came to her senses and quickly agreed nervously. Then she glanced at Uchiha Zan from time to time, while talking about the place they were going to this time. As Uchiha Makoto analyzed before, the battlefield they were going to was the Rain Country. Tsunade actually fought with Konaha, but there was the famous, Konaha's White Fang, Hatake Tsukumo as the commander. Therefore, combat power like Tsunade was assigned to the Rain Country. According to the third Hokage's tactics, he first let Hatake Tsukumo hold on to the Sand Shinobi side. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade were the main forces on the Rain Country side, repelling the offensive of Rain Shinobi Village, and then went to support Hatake Tsukumo. Hatake Tsukumo's swordsmanship was very restrained by Sand Shinobi's puppetry. As a medical expert, Tsunade can also come to break the poison of Hanzo of the Salamander. The battlefield of the two sides can be said to be completely in a restrained situation. According to the third generation's analysis of the battle situation and the prediction of the direction of the war, such a tactical allocation is the safest. Rain Shinobi Village, after all, except for Hanzo of the Salamander, the strength of the entire ninja village is not worth mentioning. But Uchiha Zan is very clear that the third generation has underestimated the personal strength of Hanzo of the Salamander. Although it has not reached the point in the future where cage level is worse than dogs, super shadows run around everywhere, and the ninjas below are not even cannon fodder. But Hanzo of the Salamander can really influence the situation of the battle with his own poison. Knowing the future direction, Uchiha Zan thought about how to maximize his own interests and minimize losses. Taking care of Makoto, Tsunade and his own safety must be the first priority. Thinking of this, Uchiha Zan leaned over to Tsunade and gently hooked her finger. Tsunade, who was following the main force, was startled by this sudden action. She rolled her eyes at Uchiha Zan with affection and whispered, "What are you doing? We are going to the front line." Tsunade's warning was very severe, but her little hand did not resist. At this time, Uchiha Zan naturally did not tease her, big and good teacher, but said, "Tsunade, how is your 100 healings mark developing?" "Oh, 100 healings mark." Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that Uchiha Zan wanted to ask this. When she escorted the Uzumaki clan before, she also received their gifts. Although she could not learn sealing techniques such as adamantine sealing chains, she was interested in the principles behind them. Uchiha Zan also took the initiative to communicate with her about this matter, and guided her to develop the 100 healings mark, in both explicit and implicit ways. After his guidance, Tsunade also began to try to develop it. But creating a new ninjutsu out of nothing is hard to imagine, and it is the most niche, sealing technique. Fortunately, with the cooperation of Uchiha Zan in the development, Tsunade's progress is not slow. She gently lifted the forehead protector she was wearing with her fingertips, revealing the diamond mark between her white eyebrows. The development is basically completed, and there are still some small places that need to be fine-tuned. Zan, your idea is fine. As long as the output frequency and stability of the stored chakra are controlled, the body functions can be kept in full condition. When talking about the 100 healings mark, Tsunade couldn't stop smiling. Another benefit of 100 healings mark is that it can make micro-adjustments to the body to achieve the effect of maintaining youth. Although she is still young and confident in her appearance and figure, who can guarantee the future? Being able to maintain a youthful appearance is more important than strength for a woman. This confidence that she will not age with time makes her stand up straight in front of Uchiha Zan. The concerns in her heart that she might be crushed by a big car also dissipated with the completion of the development of 100 healings mark. Uchiha Zan heard that Tsunade had completed the development, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. 100 healings mark, an S-level medical sealing technique, is absolutely powerful. Uchiha Zan also wants to try to use his left eye to perform transfer soul portrait in the future. After getting the 100 healings mark, I can ask Tsunade to take me to the Katsuyu Immortal Bone Forest to see if I can cultivate it into sage mode. In fact, he wanted to go to Mount Myoboku and Raichi Cave once and learn all 3 different sage modes. He had never mentioned it before, mainly because he felt that his strength was not enough. Now he has the confidence and strength to learn it. These thoughts were fleeting, and his subsequent actions would have to wait until the end of the war. Uchiha Zan followed Tsunade all the way, listening to her oral instructions and began to learn the 100 healings mark. When the team was halfway through the journey and set up camp to rest at night, Uchiha Zan had already learned the 100 healings mark. He did not condense the 100 healings mark in a conspicuous place like the center of his eyebrows. Mobilizing the chakra in his body to gather together, in a moment, a dark magatama pattern appeared behind his right shoulder. The endless flow of chakra gathered in the magatama, filling it completely. Uchiha Zan, who sat down to refine and restore chakra, smiled immediately. 100 healings mark can regulate one's own body functions, and can also be used as energy later. It's impossible to lose an extra blue bar. Zan-jun, your learning ability is so exaggerated. Looking at Uchiha Zan, who had already stood up, Makoto next to him was sure that he had learned the 100 healings mark. As for her, even with Tsunade's personal teaching, she still couldn't get started. After she opened the 3-tomo Sharingan, her talent, learning ability, etc. were enhanced by more than several times, but she still couldn't be compared with Uchiha Zan. Don't compare with that little monster, there is nothing normal about him. Tsunade sat next to Makoto, rolled his eyes at Uchiha Zan, and then echoed. When she said this, Makoto's face also turned pink. After all, she has lived with Uchiha-san for the past 2 years, and her growth and size are obvious to all. Moreover, Uchiha-san is not bad, and asked her to help. From the initial awkwardness to the proficiency, she has suffered a lot. Thinking about it, Makoto looked at Tsunade beside her with envy. After observing closely, the magnificent size really made her envious. If it were her, she should still grow for a while before she can achieve the achievement of adding fuel to the flames in Schwangen's mouth. While they were chatting, Uchiha-san suddenly stopped refining chakra and looked at the forest on the left with caution. To be precise, he was not looking, but Kagura hard-eye hard-net, sensing that a team was attacking this side. The other party came secretly and did not seem to be a friendly force coming to support. Since they had not met formally, Uchiha-san could not detect whether the other party was malicious or kind. A 5-member ninja team is approaching. Do we have support? Uchiha-san suddenly spoke up and asked Tsunade, who was leading the team next to him. Tsunade was the leader of their 30-member team. Hearing Uchiha-san say that he sensed the approach of unknown ninjas, Tsunade was stunned and looked at the sensing ninja in the team. The other party was also confused, because he didn't sense anything. They are 20 kilometers away and are heading this way. It's normal that you can't sense them. 20 kilometers. Is this true? Looking at Uchiha-san's serious expression, the sensing ninja frowned. He had never heard of any sensing ninjutsu that could not only sense the whereabouts of the other party at such a long distance, but also find out the number of the other party. But the relationship between Uchiha-san and Tsunade was known to everyone in Konaha village. The sensing ninja didn't dare to mock or refute anything, he just lowered his head and said, I didn't sense anything here, just like what Lord Uchiha-san said. We have support, but not in this location. Recently, there is intelligence that teams heading to the Land of Rain have been attacked occasionally. Tsunade hesitated for a while and spoke in a deep voice. Her words basically set the tone for this matter. The ninjas who were originally resting immediately organized their actions. According to the instructions of Uchiha-san and Tsunade, a ninja team was divided to start hunting the strange ninjas coming this way. However, the 4 Konaha shinobi who followed Uchiha-san had more or less unhappy expressions on their faces. The current resistance of Konaha village to the Uchiha clan cannot be said to be very strong, but it is not easy to deal with. After all, the Uchiha clan is now doing the work of the Konaha police department, which is similar to the work of urban management and is annoying. Moreover, the tempers of the Uchiha people are worse than each other. In the eyes of most people, the image of the Uchiha people is not good. Now they were ready to rest, but they were called up to move again. This instinctively made people feel uncomfortable. Uchiha-san ignored the impatience and boredom of the Konaha shinobi. Uchiha-san, who was leading the way, flew silently between the trees. The ninjas behind him had to work hard to keep up. After 5 minutes of rushing, Uchiha-san stopped. I saw the enemy ninja. Uchiha Makoto followed closely behind. He immediately saw the 5-member ninja team mentioned by Uchiha-san and immediately signaled to the ninjas with sign language. Are there really enemy ninjas? After realizing that Uchiha-san, a guy who was only 12 years old, was not lying, the emotions of the 4 Konaha shinobi immediately restrained. Tsunade also saw the leader of the ninja team, and his expression suddenly became stern. It's Tsunagaku's elite Jonin Kazamaru. Now Tsunagaku and Konaha village have officially declared war. The enemy village's elite Jonin appeared here, obviously with a special mission. Tsunade looked at Uchiha-san with relief, and in his heart he also affirmed his ability. When did this kid have such a strong perception ability? Did he cheat with his perception ability when I lost to him every time before? A wild idea flashed through Tsunade's mind. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.